2026. What should it be? 072-702-1702. We'll take your WhatsApp voice notes. I always want to know if you're a first-time caller. I want to know where you are calling us from or sending us that WhatsApp from. And let's talk about teen pregnancy. We'll explain why coming up.
You're with Bongani Bingwa.
7:02 weekday mornings, 6 to 9 a.m.
I'm Ramila. I'm sure you've got strong feelings about this subject. You're a mom. You are married. You have done it the right way, as we are often told.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts? And how do you think society treats the issue of pregnant teenagers? How should it deal with it?
I mean, the whole teenage pregnancy issues are, it's like, where did it start? Like, because it didn't start with the baby just, being there, right? What happened when the baby became, or the girl child became of age? Whether those conversations in the house, was the mother present enough to tell the child that, okay, now that you are at this stage, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to take care of yourself. And when's the girl child...
Hold on. Whoa. Are you saying that if it happens, it likely then means the mother of the teenager didn't do their job?
No. They could have. I mean, the child will always just go ahead and do their own thing anyway, even if they are told not to, right? I can tell you that there's fire there, but the child will still decide to go.
Right, so why are we bringing up the issue of where the mother was?
But I'm just saying that there's somewhere where it starts. There needs to be those conversations in the house. We need to talk about it openly. We need to talk about the dangers of unprotected sex. Never mind the babe, never mind the child, the pregnancy itself. I'm more worried about your health as well. Haven't you been protecting yourself? Don't you know the dangers of,
Would you feel comfortable buying your teen son or daughter their first box of condoms?
Yes.
Mattel?
Yes, I would.
Where are you on this?
I grew up in a very strict family, Bongani. So how we handled it back then, there would have been a lot of stigma for whoever was pregnant at that age. Just, who raised you, basically? Why are you doing this? But now, and we've had a few teenage pregnancies in my family more recently, there's no alienation for the child. There's more support, because we do understand, we live in South Africa. We don't know how the pregnancy came about. Is this an older person that was, taking advantage of the child? All sorts of things could have happened. So there's more support now.
Yeah.
And wouldn't be a baby shower, but there would definitely be more support from the rest of the family.
But if, as I argued earlier, if anybody needs a baby shower, surely it's the teen mom or the teen parents.
The problem with the baby shower is that
financial means.
It's seen as a celebration of some sort.
A life is coming into the world.
Exactly. And obviously the life does not have a case to say in the matter. It's not their fault. But once you celebrate something like that, it's often seen as, then it's
encouragement.
It's okay to do. So it's very tricky.
So you wouldn't have the baby shower?
Oh, no. Absolutely not.
Do you feel comfortable buying that first box of condoms for your son and your daughter?
No.
How? What must going to happen?
No. No, because that's also... you raise them to know all these things, but that's also a form of encouragement.
But at the point that you realize, at some point you'll realize this is going to happen. So if I don't want to have the conversation about a baby shower, at least then let me buy this box.
The reality of it, Bongani, is that you would have handed them the box, but are they going to use it?
That's a different story. But giving them the box is about as big an effort as you can make to make sure.
My dad is cool with this, sure.
All right, let's talk. 072-702-1702. What are your thoughts around teenage pregnancy? It's not as easy as we assume, right?
Good morning, Bongs and team. Michael here from Tsakane. Bongs, teenage pregnancy is not nice. I think it only works when there's adequate support, I'm a nurse by profession. I've delivered 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. It only gets better with adequate support. But unfortunately, those that I've delivered, they didn't have any form of support. In terms of family. You'll find that that child's pregnancy is not as a result of rape even. It's as a result of survival. So if they don't have support, it's really sad. Some they even give birth and end up running away and leaving the child at the hospital.
Gosh, it's about survival, economic survival, right? That's what he's saying there. He's a nurse. He's watched this movie so many times, and he says it's not always because somebody took advantage of that child. Sometimes the child got themselves pregnant because it was their only way to eat. And now that the baby is here or on its way, they are the ones who are still shunned.
But what do you say to the boy child, right? Because this particular girl did not get pregnant by herself.
Yeah.
You know,
And
are you roping in the other family to be as responsible, to be as under pressure as you are?
And because it's not all the time that the father of the child is an older man. Sometimes they are both teenagers.
I've been witness to family scenarios where the family of the boy child wanted nothing. It was denial, 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 not ours. They just wanted nothing to do with the baby. It's 6:15.
Let's walk the talk.
702.
Now, you may have seen this. It's a video that went viral. Helen Zille, who is, of course, the DA's mayoral candidate for Johannesburg, has been going around different parts of the city highlighting failures in service delivery, whether it's potholes or streets that aren't working or sewage removal. And the other day she was in Douglasdale. You may have seen a video where she started snorkeling in a massive water-filled pothole in Douglasdale in Johannesburg. And she called it was at the weekend, she called it a free Saturday afternoon swim. And at some point attempts a backstroke while she's, of course, highlighting the long-standing service delivery failure in that area. I saw a tweet by Professor Adam Habib, who thought it was a brilliant strategy to highlight the issues that bedevil Joburg. Here's a clip from some of what she had to say. If you didn't see this video, so Helen Zille is in a puddle of water. It looks like a pool, really. She is snorkeling, quite literally snorkeling. I mean, that's how big this pothole is. You could almost treat it as a swimming pool. So have that picture in your mind as you listen to this.
Welcome to Douglasdale at this wonderful snorkel pool that has been here for about 3 years, despite many attempts to fix it. When the grader comes in the dead of night so that people can earn overtime, they burst the pipe again. And here we are with a free and wonderful Saturday afternoon snorkel. I can even do the backstroke over here. Let's see if I can do that still.
It's a for me. In that video, Helen says it's been there, that pothole, for 3 years. And whenever they've tried to fix it, they make sure that it is, broken again so they can come back and there's money to be made. So yesterday, the Johannesburg mayor, the incumbent Dada Morero, went to that very pothole, and this is what he had to say about it. Dada Morero.
We are here in Douglasdale, Balder Road, where Mrs. Zille was swimming. It's important to confirm, yes, there was a reported pest, and Joburg Water responded to the pest on the 29th of March, and they've been doing work to fix the steel pipe, replace the steel pipe. We are aware that 3 years ago, the same area had the pest, but we want to encourage our customers, especially in the area, that as and when there's any pest, you need to report it immediately.
What Helen said, it had been like that for 3 years. I mean, you can
Almost like the Hadidas are disagreeing with him there.
You can hear but also you can hear the defeat in his voice, right? It's just, yeah. When would he have done anything? When would he have been there had it not been for Helen Zille showing us what was happening? Who's winning that PR, that campaign war? Dada Morero, the incumbent, or the challenger? And where's Herman?
Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.
On 702. Let's walk the talk.
We're asking you about teenage pregnancy this morning and how society deals with it and how society ought to deal with it. I'll explain why we're asking that question coming up in a minute. Mateo Haripa, you've got a question of your own?
Very simple and straight one this morning, Bongani. What does the recent fuel price increase mean for you? What are some of the things you're considering? Do you have a smaller engine that you can defer to? Maybe a smaller car in the house? Are you speaking to your colleagues about pulling if you live close to each other? Or are you cycling to work? Are your kids walking to school? How are you going to be handling this particular
Look, there are definitely going to be far fewer trips. There are definitely going to be far fewer trips. And really, it's to work and home. And one of my strategies is to try and not let, if I can, God's be merciful, if I can, not let my tank drop below half. Because obviously it's cheaper to fill up half a tank than the full tank.
So you need to be more aware now.
Yeah, I mean, my full tank, when I'm really, really well behaved, can last me up to 3 weeks if I just go to work and only to work.
So no invites for you at the moment.
I might have to decline one or two.
But we can come to your house.
It'll cost you.
702.
Weather.
It's 20 after 6. What conditions can you expect on this Wednesday? Temperatures peaking at 27 degrees in Johannesburg and Vereeniging, a low of 14 for Josie. Your high in Pretoria is 29. If you're in Cape Town, you can expect a foggy morning, otherwise a high of 26 degrees later on. Mahikeng, it's 28. Gqeberha, 30. East London, or Kukombo, as we now hear, it's cold. It's 31. Your high in Durban will be 30 degrees.
EWN Traffic.
21 after 6. Let's have a first look at those roads. Amo?
Well, Bongani, we do have delays on the N3 North, peak time delays here between the Elands interchange and the Van Buren Road exit. If you are traveling on the Mark 1 North, expect delays as well between Xavier Street and the double-decker section. Traveling in Midrand, we've got an accident reported on the N1 South. It happened right after Oliphants-Fontaine Road. It is causing heavy traffic volumes already. If you come across anything else on the roads, do remember that we are on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Good morning, Bongani and your team. Teen pregnancy, Bongani, it has to start from home. I'm raising 2 daughters. One of them is at university at the moment. We always talk those talks that is uncomfortable. We always tell her what to do, what not to do. So, I think parents should stop that myth of saying that kids are coming from hospital and tell kids what is happening, where kids are coming from. I think parents, they need to be blamed in this situation in that respect, from Max in Pretoria.
Max in Pretoria. I've had the conversation with my teenage daughter. She swears she'll wait until marriage, but we've had the conversation. She once even asked me, listen to this, Mateo. She asked me, so tell me about your first time. And I was like, you? And she says, so you want me to tell you when my first time comes? So, I had to give headlines. It was news headlines, right? And she wanted to know who, how old, where, why. And as honestly as I could, I tried to answer. And then we had an agreement that notwithstanding your promise to wait until marriage, when you are ready, I'm happy to buy that box. I'm going to have to. Are you that brave when it comes to teen pregnancy?
Start your day with Bongani Bingwa.
On 702. Let's walk the
Things you need to know at this hour. Let me let the cat out of the bag. The reason we're talking about all of this is because, of course, the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Kwahube, has introduced mandatory reporting rules for cases where learners under 16 become pregnant at school, and the focus is meant to be on support, not punishment. The new rules aim to ensure that pregnant learners can stay in school during pregnancy and return safely after childbirth without fear of expulsion or exclusion. In partnership with the Departments of Health and Social Development, schools will also provide access to essential antenatal, postnatal, and psychosocial support services. The government is calling on the public to have their say, so you can have your written comments on these new proposals as part of the Bella Act regulations. You've got 30 days to do so. These were published earlier this week on the 25th of March. So you've got until 25 days, 30 days, beg your pardon, 30 days from the 25th of March when these new regulations were published. But the idea is to give support to girls who fall pregnant as teenagers. And I'm asking you, is society ready to deal with this in the way that the current thinking is going? South Africa's water crisis is getting more urgent, I'm afraid. So a new government report has revealed that nearly half of our wastewater treatment systems are now facing critical failure. Out of 848 systems assessed for the 2023-24 municipal financial year, 396 or 47% are in a critical state. That's up sharply from 39% in 2022. Meanwhile, the systems performing at good or excellent levels have plummeted from a measly 14% to now just 8%. And the report is painting a picture of stark provincial inequality. Your risk of exposure to contaminated water really depends on where you live. Provinces like the Western Cape and Gauteng fare better, maintaining the strongest risk profiles, whilst other regions, quite frankly, you drink the tap water at your own risk. A giant leap back to the stars. After more than 50 years, today the United States embarks on its first deep space journey since 1972. 4 astronauts setting out on a daring 9-day trip around the moon and back in the historic Artemis 2 mission. The timing couldn't be more significant, of course, for Donald Trump's presidency. Huge stakes on the line, and America trying to get the competitive edge over China when it comes to the space race. Talking of 50 years, today marks 50 years of Apple, the company that started in 1976 with Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne. It went on quietly, and I suppose a little more loudly, to reshape how we live, work, and connect. What for you is the company or brand that has had the most impact on your life? What's that company or brand that has absolutely changed your life, without which you would not be able to function? I bet you for a lot of people, Apple would be on that list. From underestimated to unforgettable, the singer Susan Boyle turns 65 today. She was born on this day in 1961. You may remember, of course, in 2009, she really was the ultimate underdog, was she not? When she entered Britain's Got Talent in 2008, that audition, when she was on stage looking like, you know, she didn't look like a star, did she? And Simon Cowell and the other judges, they just, and then her mouth opened and that voice came out, and the rest was history.
702.
The newspapers.
Swiso Zulu, a very good morning to you. What
Morning,
brand or company has had the most impact on your life?
Any brand.
Wow.
Give us our daily life. Give us our
Give
daily
us the
newspapers. So in England, more than 1 million people are set to receive weight loss medication through the National Health Service in a move that's aimed at cutting the risk of heart attacks and strokes. The drug is already used to treat obesity and is used as an Ozempic for type 2 diabetes patients. And now health officials say it will be offered more widely to people who are overweight and at high risk of serious heart problems. And experts say the treatment works not only by helping people lose weight, but it also directly benefits the heart and blood vessels. But they say the drug is offered alongside existing treatments, healthier diets, and increased physical activity.
The front page of the Sowetan this morning. Paraffin is the big story. Paraffin users now to pay double despite government's efforts to cushion motorists from fuel hike. People who use paraffin are going to pay a whole lot more to cook their food. You will pay for Joburg's pay deal. Service delivery going for a loop for the city's 10 billion rand wage deal with its workers. I'll tell you a little bit more about that after 7 o'clock.
EWN Business.
Mateo, you want to know what does the fuel price increase mean for everyone listening? No longer a long commute to work, public transport for some of the month, pooling with colleagues. lift clubs, buying a bicycle? Well, I know what prompts the question.
Yeah, it all hit us at midnight, Bongani. The April fuel price adjustment is expected to slash through already tight budgets in the country. The Mineral and Petroleum Resources Department has revealed that a litre of petrol will now cost R3.06 more. Diesel will also go up by R7.37 a litre, while illuminating paraffin will rise by R11.67 a litre. So from today, petrol will cost R23.25 a litre, while the inland diesel price will be higher at R26.11. This is a record high in South Africa. The higher price of paraffin will affect South Africa's vulnerable. According to the Academy of Science of South Africa, between 2.7 and 3.6% of South African households, roughly between 600,000 and 2 million people, still rely on paraffin as their primary energy source for cooking. Now, while usage has significantly declined from 21.6% in 1996, it still remains a critical fuel. It's this high that is paraffin because it's pegged around the price of jet fuel. Now, why would paraffin be pegged around the price of jet fuel? Paraffin is just unrefined jet fuel, basically. So jet fuel is literally a paraffin that's refined. So it's used for planes because it can burn slower and longer for those longer distances, and that's why that particular price is so high at the moment.
It won't be flying off the shelves, hey? Where's the rand?
Rand at this hour, 16.89. Only good thing this morning, really, gaining some losses against the dollar at 19.52 against the euro and 22.35 against the British pound. The price of gold at $4,674 an ounce, or platinum is at $1,953. Brent crude, $105 a barrel. More business after 7.
So I worked it out, Muteo. If you're in California versus Gauteng, in California, you'd be paying 40 Rand a litre for diesel. That's from $8.89 for a gallon of diesel. So that works out around 40 Rand a litre for diesel if you are in California. So things are being reversed. It's actually better to live in Gauteng than in California. Now, talking of reversals, can I tell you, my friend Tony always insists I mustn't say his name backwards. Do you know what I say to him? Why not?
Shut up.
Let's go to the news. Sfisa Zulu, what's happening in the capital?
Thanks, Bongani. Good morning. Tshwane Mayor Nasipi Moya says the city will do all it can to protect its new water tankers. The 15 trucks have been bought to reduce reliance on the private sector. The metro will no longer rely on contractors for emergency tankers, and it will use its own fleets. Asked whether security is in place to protect the trucks from the so-called water tanker mafia, Moya emphasized that the city will do its best.
The first instance is obviously to be proactive. We know there may be a risk of saying there is a retaliation in some parts, and it may be taken out on the officials that will be manning this function, which is the drivers. So that's why I'm saying the first thing is that there must be safety measures, including escorting them.
The case of 5 South African women suspected of being drug mules has been postponed to next week for possible bail application. The group was arrested over the weekend when they were caught with drugs worth 5 million rand at OR Tambo International Airport. The cocaine was hidden and wrapped around their bodies. The suspects made their first appearance in the Campton Park Magistrates Court yesterday. Police spokesperson Amanda van Wyk.
The matter has been postponed to the 8th and 9th of April next week, where they will be making their formal bail application. They remain in custody, facing charges related to dealing and possession of drugs.
City of Cape Town Law Enforcement Acting Commissioner Christopher Jones say they are ready to support SAPS and the SANDF in tackling violent crime in identified hotspots across the metro. Soldiers have been deployed from today to assist police in dismantling organized crime networks, gang violence and illicit mining operations across 5 provinces. Ntutuzelo Nene takes a look.
At least 40 people were killed in Cape Town last month amid ongoing gun violence. City of Cape Town Law Enforcement Acting Commissioner Christopher Jones says the situation cannot be allowed to continue.
The gangs must run. We must take charge. We need to make sure that we support South African Police Service, as well as SANDF.
He adds that the use of technology will be crucial in their operations.
Do have the digital capacity to be able to prove evidence in court, and that will be our support from the city side.
Communities are also being urged to work with deployed officers to help curb crime. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News.
And the Senegalese president has signed into law legislation doubling the maximum penalty for same-sex relations, making them punishable by up to 10 years in the country. The law, which was signed earlier this week and passed by an overwhelming majority in the National Assembly, has sparked debate. People promoting or financing same-sex relationships will also face criminal penalties. UN Rights Chief Volker Turk called the law deeply worrying after its passage in Parliament, saying that it flies in the face of the sacrosanct of human rights. A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng today. The temperatures are at lows of 14 and 16 degrees, peaking at highs between 27 and 29.
And in the traffic, we've got an accident reported on the N1 South. It's right near Olifantsfontein Road. It's causing delays coming out of the Brakfontein interchange. Please be on the lookout there. There's also queuing traffic reported on the R59 North. This is between Swartkopies Road and Nelson Mandela Avenue.
The top story this hour, the city of Tshwane says it'll do all it can to protect its new water tankers.
Part of the 702 family.
Hi, I'm Katlego Mosue. I'm a 23-year-old boy from Johannesburg, South Basonia, and I love listening to 702 because it is informative and it keeps us up to date with current affairs.
Welcome to our 702 family. Let's walk the talk.
You may or may not know the difference between a torque wrench and a ratchet wrench, but you do know a great OUTsurance deal when you see one, right? So get a car insurance quote now, and if OUTsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and information online.
Hey guys, this is Robert Marawa, Hollywood Bet's brand ambassador. Playing responsibly is part of the winning strategy. Make smart choices and continue to score. If you or someone that you know needs help, call the South African Responsible Gambling Toll-Free Counseling Line on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop.
Gauteng is currently experiencing high water consumption. To avoid water interruptions, residents are urged to use water sparingly to allow equitable supply. Act now, save water. Every drop counts. This message is brought to you by the Department of Water and Sanitation, Rand Water, Gauteng Provincial Government, City of Johannesburg, City of Tshwane, and City of Ekurhuleni.
Coming up in the next hour, what's the question? It's brought to you by OUTsurance. 3,000 Rand in cash is up for grabs. So you send us an answer based on anything that piqued your interest during the show. For that, you win $1,000. Simply WhatsApp us your name and your answer to 072 702 1702. Later, someone else will ask a question to win 2,000 Rand. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on your car insurance.
702.
WhatsApp Bongani on 072
702 1702.
Morning, Bongani. Kecho, as always, I think that's how it is, with the society in terms of teenage pregnancy. The silence that you hear in the studio, the discomfort and being uncomfortable to talk about the topic as well. I guess that's how it is in the real world. So no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to, because in some instances, when you talk about it more, it looks as if you are encouraging it. But I guess it's something that we really need as parents to actually take it on and talk to our kids about it. It's actually what the best that we can do for them. Thank you.
Hi guys, let's get this straight. So if a girl is 14, 15, 16, it's still rape, it's statutory rape, they cannot consent. And if, let's say, they quote unquote consent, if it's for survival, they're still being taken advantage of because it's the harsh economic realities that someone is using in order to extract sex or whatever it is out of them.
Hi, Bongal 702 lenders. About the school girls pregnancy support, I personally just think we should use that time and effort to come up with initiatives to actually show them how teenage pregnancy can affect their future. Instead of being reactive, shall we not be at least proactive? I'm just thinking about that because then, we might be looking at this in a way of, saying it's fine. And therefore, we know it isn't fine because then the consequences of that child and the economy is going to be even worse. So I'm just thinking, couldn't we have thought about other ways of motivating them not to versus if you are, then we will support you type of a question. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe my thinking is just not aligned, but, similarly to the grants, I'm just thinking, are we not making our society to be more comfortable with the situations versus trying to actually show them and helping them how to not get to those situations. Thanks for a great show, guys. Shadi, Kempton Park.
Well, I think what they're trying to do, Tsivikwa Khube and the Department of Education, is to accept the reality that teenage pregnancy is something the society has long been dealing with, and instead of making the girl child suffer in terms of their exclusion from schooling, they want to make it easier for girls who do fall pregnant for whatever reason to be able to deliver their baby and continue with their education. That is about the best chance that baby can have for a positive future versus, I suppose, burying our heads in the sand and pretending that it isn't something that happens. Statutory rape is also a tricky one because it also depends on the age of the boy child. And we cannot assume, and we must not assume, that in every instance, or even in most instances, teenagers fall pregnant because of abuse by significantly older men. That, of course, is a reality. That's a part of the story, but it doesn't necessarily explain every story. I'm asking you, how should society deal with teenage pregnancy?
EWN Sport.
18 to 7. Cindy Paluta, I'm going to bring you into this conversation because one of the things you do, of course, is you do counseling when you are not on the radio or on your couch watching sport.
Yes.
What is your experience in terms of just anecdotally the stories you hear? Does society still shun teen pregnant moms?
Absolutely. And it's an age old, the girl child gets shunned, but the boy who's involved doesn't. And I like the comment that you said that we can't just blame older men, because a lot of the time the girls think they are making an informed decision with this boy who really liked me, etc., etc. And it could be a once off or a twice off situation. And I mean, we all know how it works. And now these girls are pregnant, and then the parents are generally the first to shun the child. And I don't think parents intentionally shun the child like you did a bad thing. They just look at, oh my gosh, your future, because as parents, we understand what it's like to parent. And then to get back into school without being judged is, I mean, we're living in la la land if we think that's going to happen.
So here's what I was asking. Part of what I was asking is because what the new regulations, and we all have 30 days to comment on them. One of the things I was asking was, in not shunning a child, do you then have things like a baby shower, for example? And I know a lot of people feel uncomfortable with that idea, but I was arguing, who needs a baby shower more than the teen mom who doesn't have the resources for all the baby is going to require when they come around?
I don't see, it's quite interesting because I had this conversation with a group of friends last week, but
I'm spying on you.
I don't see why a teenager shouldn't be allowed a baby shower, because the baby shower is there to actually support the mother. It's to buy her and assist her financially with what she needs, right?
And who needs support more than a teen mom?
And if your teenager falls pregnant, I can promise you now, you no longer have the pram and the carton and this and that, because you could possibly gave it all away or sold it, etc., and the nappies and all of that stuff that is needed. Nobody's saying, if my child goes to another teenager's baby shower, my child's not going to come back pregnant, eh? It's not contagious, pregnancy. It's just a case of
This is a chapter in your life. I've been there for everything else.
We might as well continue.
Yeah.
We might as well continue. I tell you what, who needs support? Bafana, hey?
Yeah, so Coach Hugo Bross stating the obvious last night. His side was overpowered in a 2-1 loss to Panama. It was an international friendly. EWN Sports' Kieran Thompson was there.
Panama spoiled the party in Cape Town to build momentum heading into the FIFA World Cup. The tourists broke the deadlock just before the hour mark through Jose Cordoba after a goalless first half. 6 minutes later, Mbekezeli Mbokazi fired a thunderbolt into the top left corner that sent the Cape Town crowd wild.
South Africa played a very good game. We had again 3 open chances. And again, we didn't score, unfortunately. If we could have scored one of those chances, that maybe it would be another game. But the second half, we were overpowered by Panama.
Hugo Bross will select his final squad in May and is hopeful of having one more friendly before the World Cup. Kieran Thompson, Eyewitness News Sport, DHL Stadium.
Italy has failed to qualify for the World Cup for a third successive time. A 10-man Italy held 1-1 by Bosnia-Herzegovina and then lost the resulting penalty shootout. DR Congo through to their first World Cup in 52 years. They beat Jamaica in extra time 1-0. Turkey qualified for the first time since 2002. They beat Kosovo 1-0. Also booking places at the World Cup, Sweden, who beat Poland 3-2, and Czech Republic, who beat Denmark on a penalty shootout. Tottenham Hotspur have confirmed Roberto De Zerbi as head coach, their third coach of the season. He's tasked with saving the team from relegation. Live cricket down under, where the Proteas women were sent into bat by New Zealand in the second ODI. They posted an impressive 346 for 6. Annika Bosch with a massive 91. Wolfart made 69. Try and not out on 52. At the moment, New Zealand are looking strong though, 275 for 5. They need 72 from 47, which does look like it's in our favour. But in the middle, they've got to get the captain Amelia Kerr out because she is far too comfortable on 126 off 111. Yeah. Let's keep the other lady on strike. Let's keep the other lady on strike. At the IPL, Punjab Kings beat Gujarat Titans by 3 wickets. Player of the match, Cooper Connolly, with an unbeaten 72 from 44. And a huge blow for the Springboks. Locke Erge Snyman is out for the rest of the year after rupturing his ACL in his right knee this time. He was playing for Leinster. He'll miss all the Springbok games this year. So that's against England, Wales and Italy in July, as well as rugby's greatest rivalry against the All Blacks in August. Cindy Polita, Eyewitness News Sport.
The brainy kids of the Whiz Quiz.
On 702.
Good morning, Bongani. My name is Nathan Tambata. I am 13 years old. I go to Glenview Primary School, and when I grow up, I'd like to be a sound engineer.
Oh, we can't wait to play with you too. You did really well in the pre-test. 9 out of 10. Can you beat that?
702.
Coming up at 7:15, the big interview.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. And you could save on your car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Delays on the N1 South, Amo?
Correct, Bongani. This is just as you leave the Brockfontein interchange towards Midrand. An accident is causing these delays. Please be on the lookout there and approach with care. Do expect about a 20-minute hold-up if you already find yourself in this backlog. And if you are traveling on the R21 north in the Kempton Park area, we've got another accident scene reported right after the OR Tambo interchange, and it's causing heavy delays. About a 10-minute hold-up so far. Please try to avoid this one. You can still use the R23 as well as the R21 southbound if you want to avoid this scene. I'll have more updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Things people stress about in traffic. Number 47. Did I turn the iron off? Oh, the inner turmoil. Well, with the Outsurance pointsmen on your route, at least the traffic is one less thing to stress about. The Outsurance pointsmen have been easing traffic congestion so we all get to where we need to be quickly and safely for the past 20 years. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In partnership with 702, Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
The Audi Open House sales event is now on and you're invited. Come test drive a wide range of Audi models and stand a chance to win an exclusive Audi Formula One experience. Plus, enjoy limited time offers across the Audi range. The Audi Open House sales event is now on at Audi dealerships nationwide until 30 April. Book your test drive at audi.co.za. Terms and conditions apply.
Let's hear from Dr. Amand, owner of Monument Dental, why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance.
It was one call and I was covered immediately. We are very happy with the premium we're paying. I wish I did it sooner.
For dentistries, general medical practices, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Join us.
Let's walk the talk.
This is 702.
Oh man, good morning, Bongani. I think it's an easy one. In terms of PR, Helen is definitely winning. And the fact that Dada has to follow up in terms of where she was and try and defend something that is clearly undefendable clearly says that Helen is on 10 and Dada is not catching up anytime soon. Helen's PR is great and doing great. And if it was not, I don't think that she would find so many problems in Johannesburg. So the fact that there are problems, she's definitely leading Neo in Midrand.
Bongani, Helen Zille is a star. Helen Zille is a superstar. You can say whatever you like about Helen Zille. She's not even a mayor yet, but wherever she goes, the mayor goes and fix. They fix automatically. Wherever Zille goes, it's been fixed. That's how good she is. She's fixing things before she even becomes a mayor. Indirectly so. That's a Dada. That one is a Dada. Do you know what Dada means? Ha! Helen Zille, indeed.
Who is the whizziest of them all?
It's the Whiz Quiz on 702.
Well, Sinentla, who's our contestant today, is definitely not a Dada. He's 13 years old, goes to Glenview Primary School, and got 9 out of 10 in the pre-test. Sinentla, people tend to do better in the real test than they do in the pre-test. So you reckon 10,000 Rand is yours, hey?
Yes, Uncle Bongani.
All right, let's see. KG, start the clock. How many holes are there in a standard golf course? Is it 9 or 18?
18.
Correct. True or false? The periodic table consists of 118 confirmed elements.
False.
It's true. Which province? In which province is Durban located?
President.
Correct. Complete the saying. It's neither here nor what?
Okay.
Correct. Who was the first Disney princess? Yes. Snow White. What is 21 minus 15?
Yes.
Correct. What is the term for the process where plants release water vapor into the air? Is it transpiration or evaporation?
Evaporation.
It's transpiration. What color are the goalposts in international soccer matches? White. White is what we were looking for there. Ooh, bit of a reversal there, Sinentla. Not quite as good as your pre-test performance. But nonetheless, I mean, if you're 13 years old, 400 Rand is a tidy sum, is it not? Congratulations, my friend. You walk away with 4 correct answers, and that means 400 Rand.
The brainy kids of the Whiz Quiz
On 702.
702.
The Africa Report.
7 to 7, let's get stories from the continent, the rest of the continent, stories we think you need to pay attention to. Starlink, the satellite internet service backed by Elon Musk, has hit another snag on the continent. Namibia's telecom regulator has rejected its license application to operate there, saying the company doesn't meet key ownership and regulatory requirements, including how much of the business must be locally owned and controlled. Now, what will that mean for rural communities in Namibia hoping for faster internet? Starlink has already started services in other parts of the continent and says it will appeal that decision. We've invited Tech Central editor Duncan McLeod to join us. Duncan, a pleasure to have you on our show. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
All right, so Starlink sometimes gets a yay, but at times gets a nay.
That's right. So most of the countries in Southern Africa have actually licensed Starlink now. All of our neighboring countries, with the exception of Namibia, have licensed the service. So it's available in Botswana, in Swaziland or Eswatini, in Zimbabwe, Lesotho and Mozambique. But Namibia and South Africa are the holdouts in our region.
What is the difference between the connectivity of countries, and maybe ours might not be the ideal example, but I'll throw us in the hat anyway. What's the difference in terms of our connectivity versus the countries that have allowed Starlink to operate?
We have a pretty well-developed telecommunications infrastructure in South Africa. Since the market was liberalized about 15 years ago, there's been tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of rand poured into telecommunications infrastructure. So we've seen the deployment of fiber, mobile telecommunications across the country. So we're pretty well connected, but there are still gaps. In fact, there was a report issued by the DBSA just a couple of days ago that showed that there are still big gaps in parts of South Africa, including KwaZulu-Natal, Northwest Limpopo, and the Northern Cape, where there is no fiber infrastructure and where mobile infrastructure is also poorly developed. And it's specifically in those areas, I think, that satellite communications providers like Starlink and others would play a big role.
So to come in there, Duncan, I would imagine the Eastern Cape is a part of that mix. That's why I was reluctant to throw us in. All right, so take us out of the equation. What does Namibia look like versus, say, Botswana or even Mozambique in terms of connectivity without Starlink?
Connectivity in Namibia is pretty good in the cities, but Namibia is a very sparsely populated country. I don't know if you've been up there, Bongani, but you can drive for hours and hours and see another person. Especially in the south of the country, it's a very low populated country, and remote farming communities, remote villages, I think that would benefit enormously from satellite broadband services such as Starlink. So it would make absolute sense to launch a service like that in that market. But it makes sense to launch Starlink everywhere. I mean, there's applications for it in mining, in schools, in remote areas. Wherever there's no connectivity, satellite is promising to fill that gap. And licensing these sort of services makes absolute sense.
There have been some warnings around, particularly and it's what you're saying, of course, about connectivity, particularly in areas where there is not much infrastructure. That argument makes sense. But the person of Elon Musk becomes a factor when it comes to Starlink. And there have been some concerns about giving access to someone of that persuasion, if you will. In other words, Musk isn't just there as a tech player. He's somebody who wants to influence the direction a country might go, and that's part of the nervousness of allowing him in.
Yes, Musk is really a bit of a toxic personality, and I think that's half the problem here. And I think he's probably causing himself damage in one of these markets, and that he often appears on his social media platform X complaining about why he can't get a license in South Africa because he's not black. And I think that rubs up a lot of people in this area, in this part of the world, the wrong way. And I don't think he's doing himself any favors by doing that. He's certainly a toxic political personality, and his association with Trump and the Republican Party in the US, I think, doesn't go down well with many people, including regulators and politicians in this part of the world. So, I think that is actually a large part of the reason that he's finding it so difficult to get licensed in this part of the world. But it's unfortunate, because I think policymakers and regulators should look past that sort of thing. I don't think that a personality should influence a policy-making decision for a country, but certainly that is having an impact on political views in this part of the world.
I like the question of evidence, Duncan, because in all the countries that you've mentioned in Southern Africa, has his impact been political, or has he just provided the service and gone about his business?
The evidence suggests that there's been no sort of political interventions at all. There's been no efforts to cut off services or threats to these countries or anything like that. I think the people behind Starlink, and I've engaged with them in some detail over the last few years, they just want to get on with the business of rolling out infrastructure. They're running a business at the end of the day, and providing a service, and I think that's what they want to do. But you've got this guy at the top who's constantly aggravating people with his tweets, and I think that's just making the situation worse.
What do these ownership rules, both for South Africa, and that context we understand well enough, but even say for Namibia, which requires a certain percentage of local ownership, those seem necessary from the perspective of Namibia, for example, but do they harm or hurt the prospect of investment?
I think they hurt investment. I think just coming back to the South African context, South Africa's BE framework allows for this thing called equity equivalent investment programs, or EEIPs. It's supported by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition. So actually, communications regulator ICASA's licensing rules, which require 30% of licensees to be in the hands of historically disadvantaged individuals in terms of equity ownership, is actually out of step with the country's BE framework. And the move by the communications minister, Solly Malatsi, is actually really regulatory housekeeping to get the ICASA rules in line with the existing BE framework. Unfortunately, as this tends to happen in South Africa, I think it's become a political hot potato with politicians fighting over it, trying to score cheap political points. But I think that Malatsi's move to try and align the licensing framework in South Africa with the broader BE framework supported by the DTIC and government is the right one. It's a fact that ICASA's licensing rules are out of step with the national framework.
All right, Duncan McLeod, appreciate your time. Tech Central editor with this week's Africa Report.
702.
Coming up, the big interview.
A house divided can never stand. That's straight out of scripture. So why is one of South Africa's largest churches tearing itself apart? And it's not just fuel, my friends, that we're going to be paying more for from today. It's also electricity. Up next, we speak to NERSA.
This is EWN.
Santaco says it has the best interests of its commuters in mind in the wake of concerns about taxi fares. And Vusmuzi Matlala raises questions about evidence used in Parliament's ad hoc committee. Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. While the most significant fuel price increases in years have now kicked in, taxi commuters are being assured that any fare hikes will be approached with consideration. Motorists will pay more than R3 for both grades of petrol, and diesel is up by more than R7. And Santaco says while it acknowledges government's efforts to temporarily reduce the fuel levy by R3, the overall fuel rise places a significant burden on its daily operations. Santaco National spokesperson Matsikiti Phala says they are keeping their options open.
Given that the majority of minibus taxis operate on diesel, which is largely unregulated, the significant increase of just over R7 per litre means that the industry will continue to absorb the greatest impact of the current fuel price adjustments.
Phala says associations countrywide are currently assessing the impact of the latest increase on operational costs and profit margins.
We will not introduce fare increases that will chase away our commuters. At a national level, Santaco's leadership remains actively engaged with government to explore further support measures aimed at further cushioning both the industry and its commuters from the ongoing financial strain.
In the capital, Tshwane Mayor Nasipi Moya says the city is in discussions with national government on how to mitigate the reported fuel outage affecting municipal buses. The Metro's bus service has been significantly affected by the fuel crisis, with all 3 of its depots running extremely low. The city anticipates that all municipal buses will soon be forced to stop operations if nothing is done. Alfara Mushwana takes a look.
The Tshwane bus service is one of the most affordable and accessible modes of transport for thousands of workers, students and daily commuters. It normally runs about 155 shifts per day and covers about 3,500 bus stops across the capital city. Tshwane Mayor Nasipi Moya says an urgent solution is needed.
We're going to rely on the president and the ministers to guide us in terms of how do we work together. But in the city, we do have just a short-term plan on how we're going to work together with the small supply that we have.
She says all hands must be on deck.
At least it happens when the kids are at home, but it's not going to end next week. So there's a lot of work that we are doing also with the Ministry of Transport.
Although the new petrol prices took effect today, many motorists have reported fuel shortages at several petrol stations. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
Corruption-accused Vusmuzi Matlala is questioning the authenticity of text messages purportedly from his devices and considered by Parliament's ad hoc committee that's been investigating police corruption. In a lawyer's letter to the committee, Matlala is demanding that It provides details of where, how, and from whom it obtained the information. His lawyer is also requesting the committee to provide transcripts of all witness testimony given about Matlala. Matlala appeared before Parliament at a special sitting held at the Jose Mampuru prison last November, where he was being detained at the time. Lindsay Dentlinka reports.
Vusimusi Matlala's lawyer says the ad hoc committee used information purportedly retrieved from his client's personal devices and from correspondence either sent from him or to him via WhatsApp. But after having already given testimony on their contents, Matlala is now questioning how the committee obtained this evidence. His lawyer has sent Parliament a slew of questions about the extraction process and asking the committee to provide details of the devices from which the information was taken. But Parliament legal advisor Andile Tetjana says Matlala signed a consent form for the extraction of information by the SAPS in May 2025 and that he voluntarily discussed the contents during his testimony before the committee.
The point we're making, Chairperson, is that Mr. Matlala's legal representatives have their facts crossed and they are backing up the wrong tree.
In further correspondence to the committee, Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia says he will give MPs access to a classified report that deals with the acquisition of properties by police crime intelligence for a limited period. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And the Gulf states are unified in calling for a de-escalation of the Middle East war as Iran launched new strikes against its neighbors. Gulf countries have faced repeated drone and missile salvos over the past month in response to US and Israeli strikes that began at the end of February. Iran has targeted hydrocarbon infrastructure in the oil-rich Gulf nations while effectively closing the strategic Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of global oil usually passes. Qatar's foreign ministry spokesperson Majid Al-Ansari says they welcome any discussions of ending the war.
Our views about any talks, if they exist, are consistent with our very principled position that all conflicts will end on the negotiation table, and we support all of these efforts. We stand ready to help, of course.
Gold's trading at $4,685.84 an ounce. The rand is at 16.89 to the dollar, 22.37 to the pound, 19.54 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $105.37 a barrel.
And in the traffic in Kempton Park, we've got an accident on the R21 North. It happened right after Tambo Airport. It is causing delays. If you want to avoid this one, please use the R21 southbound through Jet Park.
And in your sport, the Proteas women defending 347 to beat New Zealand in the second ODI. New Zealand are 6 wickets down, needing 57 from 32. Bafana coach Hugo Bross says a lot of work needed if they are to do well at the World Cup. Last night, they lost 2-1 to Panama. And Italy misses out on another World Cup, while Congo and Turkey get long overdue qualification spots.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. Johannesburg is at a low of 14 degrees, peaking at 27. Pretoria 16 and 29. Vereeniging 15 and 27 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. While with the most significant fuel price increases in years have now kicked in, taxi commuters are being assured that any fare hikes will be approached with consideration.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
On 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Eight minutes after 7 o'clock, we asked you a question yesterday. How are you bracing yourself for the upcoming increases in the cost of just about everything? Fuel, of course, is going to be the big talking point today, but so will electricity. Up next, we're going to be speaking to NERSA to talk about that 8.7% increase granted to Eskom in the context of all that is unfolding. Certainly, taxi fares are going to go up. Your Uber or Bolt fare is going to go up. Are you going to drive differently as a result of these fuel increases? That's certainly a story we're going to keep an eye on. We did try and get some cushioning from Treasury. You remember, of course, at the weekend, President Cyril Ramaphosa saying that he was spending sleepless nights and that the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, was also trying to crunch the numbers to see what relief South Africans could get. And one of the ways, the finance minister told us yesterday, was a reduction in the fuel levy.
We've decided for now to reduce the fuel levy by 3 rand, both petrol and diesel, for the month of April up to the 5th of May. In between, and I don't even know where I'm going to find this money for now. In between, I must be working within the budget and say, how do I restructure in such a manner that I can be able to fund this thing? April alone is going to be 6 billion revenue loss. April alone is going to be 6 billion revenue loss. So at the end of April, today we've gazetted what I'm talking about. That's why we had to issue a statement now and to provide clarity for the industry.
So 6 billion is essentially the cushioning that government is giving South Africans for the month of April. But what happens in the months after that?
At the end of the month, in between now and the end of the month, we're going to be observing what is happening in international developments, what is the likely events. If we've got to provide a similar facility for the next other 2 months, May and June, I don't think we can sustain it beyond June. If we do, we'll probably do it in May and June. But the numbers, even for May and June, we're still going to work those numbers up, depending on how the changes are shaping up.
All of this, of course, is prompted by what's happening in the Persian Gulf. This is how we get here. I want you to now listen to the US President Donald Trump saying it could all soon be over.
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon. And they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record. I said to the American people, it's time that we have make a little detour because we have a madman that wants a nuclear weapon. And if we didn't knock him out with a B-2 bomber, we would have a nuclear weapon right now. It would have been used. It would have been used before today. And you may not be standing there asking that question. I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3.
The U.S. will be gone or done with the war in 2
I
or 3
think with
weeks?
2 or 3 weeks.
Not
3 weeks. If it is, we'll leave.
Donald Trump, of course, has predicted before that this could all end very soon, but here we are. And it's difficult to know exactly what might unfold with thousands of U.S. troops being newly deployed in that region.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
11 after 7. Let me be clear once again. It is the 1st of April, but there will be no April Fool's Day jokes on this show today. So don't think that anything, because the news cycle, such as it is, I can see 1 or 2 stories making somebody wonder, no, there will be no April Fool's Day jokes on this show, none whatsoever. So, and I say that because, of course, on this day in 2004, people wondered if this might be an April Fool's Day joke, an email service so good. On this day in 2004, Gmail was launched, and it dropped on the 1st of April, and many people brushed it off as just an April Fool's prank. Remember, most people in those days would have had a Hotmail address, they would have had a Yahoo email address, and Gmail came along, and it just functioned a lot better and a lot easier, and it was, of course, one of the ways in which Google really took off. Do you still use a Gmail address? And when somebody wants to give you a proposal using a Gmail address, do you look down on it somewhat because it doesn't come from, Bongani at 702.co.za? If it's a Gmail address, do you frown upon it? Or is it one of the best services you are able to access? We're keeping an eye on the water situation. Yesterday, of course, information coming out of the Department of Water and Sanitation in terms of just where we find ourselves. Our wastewater treatment systems in a critical state. Almost half of those assessed are in critical failure. Almost half of those assessed now in the state of critical failure. Systems rated good or excellent, that 14% at the last rating, that's now come down to 8%. The risk of exposure to contaminated water will, of course, vary depending on where you are. In the Western Cape and Gauteng, we are still relatively safer, I should say. There are regions of the country where you are simply drinking the tap water at your own risk. Pregnancy, does it have to end a student's education, particularly the girl child? The Minister of Basic Education, Sivue Kwahuba, has introduced mandatory reporting for learners under 16 who become pregnant. The aim is to support rather than punish or shame them. They're going to work with the Department of Health and Social Development, but essentially the schools want, or at least they want to encourage learners who are pregnant, who do fall pregnant, to be able to continue their education. Public comments are open for 30 days. And from underestimated to unforgettable, singer Susan Boyle turns 65 today. She was born on this day in 1961. She shocked the world in 2009 as the ultimate underdog, going from being overlooked to releasing I Dreamed a Dream. It was one of the UK's fastest and best-selling debut albums of all time. And all because she dared to enter a reality competition where nobody gave her a chance. Well, the rest was history, wasn't it?
Then I was young and unafraid, when dreams were made and used and wasted. There was no ransom to...
Up next,
The Big Interview.
EWN Traffic.
7:15 up next, we speak to the Electricity Regulation Executive Manager at the National Energy Regulator of South Africa. Amo, what are prompting the delays in Pretoria?
Well, Bongani, a car stuck on the road on the N1 North. This is just as you come out of the Flying Saucer interchange. Please be on the lookout there. And then if you're traveling on the R80 South Mabopane Highway, we do have delays towards the hairpin bend and then again towards Eskom Patlele Drive exit. Eskom Patlele Drive in itself is backed up through Maraba Start. So please be on the lookout there and continue driving with care. And of course, do remember that if you are a regular Tshwane bus service user, today there is a significant shortage impacted by the fuel shortages. So please try to find alternative modes of transport to and fro your destinations. We'll have more updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. 7:02.
The Big Interview
with Bongani Bingwa.
16 minutes after 7 o'clock. So we know the fuel prices have gone up, but so have electricity prices. NERSA approving Eskom's 8.7% increase in terms of tariffs. What will this mean for households? Rulani Matebula is the Electricity Regulation Executive Manager at NERSA, the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, and joins us now. Rulani, a pleasure to have you on our show. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Bongani, and good morning to your listeners.
Feels as if South Africans are being battered from all sides, hey?
It is indeed a difficult situation that we are facing as a country, Bongani.
That's all you're going to say. Let's just talk through what this actually means, this 8.7% increase. Depending on your average bill, I mean, for somebody who was paying, I don't know, let's say 2,500 Rand, your bill now is very close to 3,000 Rand a month. This is maybe for a typical household.
Yeah, so the prices obviously differ from area to area, but these ones are mainly for people that are supplied directly by Eskom, and also the municipalities that are actually procuring from Eskom. So if you are an Eskom customer at this point in time, you are correct that if your bill is sitting at 2.5 a month, then you are looking an additional 200 Rand or so on top of your bill on a monthly basis.
And those prices, of course, those tariff increases will bite us even harder come next year.
Yeah, look, the multi-year price determination, Bongani, has been determined in last year already. As you would know that we have got a 3-year window that we as a regulator, we determine which started last year and it's ending in March 2028. And so the price, you are correct, the price for this year is that 8.7 that you just referred to now. And the price, obviously, for next year, it's also in the same range of 8.8, 8.7, as determined by the regulator. However, it can only be confirmed next year because we still have to run the numbers as the regulator to see if indeed that is the percent that Eskom still deserves. Yeah.
For many smaller municipalities, their revenue comes from, for example, electricity. Is there a concern that for those homeowners, the more affluent ones perhaps, who can afford other options, solar is one example, that people might, if they can, get off the grid entirely, and therefore that revenue will be lost to municipalities who desperately need it?
Indeed, that we have seen happening already. I think the regulator has a process of registering some of these, we call them SSEG, self-generating installation. And they register with the regulator, many of them, and some register directly with the municipalities. So many those who can indeed have opted for that option. But I must indicate, Bongani, that the issue of the price, it's an issue that is being dealt with. You probably might have missed an article by the chairperson of Eskom yesterday or the day before, where he was confronting the same issue, the same with the minister as well. So this is an issue that we are dealing with. Actually, the initiative has been taken now to review the pricing policy itself, because that is what we are implementing as the regulator. And this is also to usher the market, Bongani. We intend to have a wholesale market for electricity in South Africa to enable different technologies to be part of our electricity grid and different generators of electricity. And all this, Bongani, is done so that we can create stability in the pricing as well as the supply of electricity.
Rolanda Matebula, Electricity Regulation Executive Manager at the National Energy Regulator of South Africa, NERSA. I would contend, as I did at the start of that interview, that indeed, as South Africans, it does feel like we are being battered from all sides.
702.
The Big Interview
with Bongani Bingwa.
Let's move on now to an entirely different issue. A house divided can never stand, my Bible says. So how is it that one of the largest churches in South Africa is tearing itself apart over a succession battle? The previous leader died in 2016. Here we are, 10 years later, and the three major factions vying for control and leadership of the International Pentecostal Holiness Church. And it is one of South Africa's largest congregations, and there's a 400 million rand estate also involved. Professor Musaqulu is a voice you've heard on the radio before, on this show certainly. He's a theologian and a religious expert and joins us now. As always, I appreciate your time and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Bongani. Good morning to your listeners, and thank you very much for inviting me.
This is just an extraordinary story because, of course, it has now gone as far as the courts in terms of trying to pick a successor for one of the largest churches in South Africa. Do you have an estimate, for example, of the members and the real size of the International Pentecostal Holiness Church?
Yes, they are estimated at around 3 million. The church having been found in Soweto, Midlands in 1962. I must say from around 1910, there was a wave of formation of what is called African independent churches or African initiated churches, AICs, which tend to mix bits of Christianity with cultures and traditions of Africa, and of course succession is always a big issue because biblically, a successor should be picked up by the church elders. But then you find that once you mix that with African traditions, the succession is not based on whether a person is trained as a minister. It just depends on how and when you were born, and maybe if some people like you, then they appoint you as a successor. And I think there's a problem there.
It also sometimes becomes dynastic, doesn't it?
Very much so. Very much so. If you look, for example, at let me pick up the three. Let's just see the Nazareth Baptist as well as the IPHC. What has happened there is more or less the same. Once the founder dies, in this case, it was not the successor to the founder, but the successor to the third in line of the dynasty. That's where the problem has been. And if you look at the Shembe Church, for example, in KZN, as a result of no succession plan, they have been divided into, I think, 6 factions now. Everyone claiming that they are the original, they should be the ones that are the actually successor.
Yeah. What makes this story particularly complicated is that now the matter has not only gone to the courts to try and get some resolution as to who the right successor might be, but some of those vying for that top position are themselves now criminally accused, including trying to bribe a magistrate or a judge to rule in their favor.
Well, that's a very bizarre story. Very bizarre because, you see, I think as I spoke about cultures encroaching into these kinds of churches, the dispute from the family side and some elders is that maybe the one that is at court now, Michael Sandlana, was born out of wedlock, a familiar story. And therefore, some are disputing whether he should be the one that becomes the successor. It's also likely that he's the elder of the others, and therefore is claiming to be the one that should be. It became, yes, bizarre when it was taken to court and the judge was allegedly bribed, and she's now sitting at home to make a certain kind of finding. Now, the estate of 400 million rand, well estimated, including all sorts of assets, is very much at the center of the dispute. And we saw that the court made a ruling or dismissed some application that Sandlana may actually be not excluded from inheritance of that, which may change the nature of things.
Yeah. How should the state deal with these issues? Because almost every facet of this discussion has been about as unholy as you might get. The 400 million rand that's up for grabs, this succession battle where brothers are fighting each other for control of a church, and the monies and the allegations of bribery. I mean, it sounds about as secular as I can imagine. How should the state deal with these kinds of things? A hands-off approach, or should there be tighter and stricter controls?
Well, there is currently a very hot kind of debate between, let me say, the CRL and the Christian churches on exactly the issue of control by the state. The history of the church from 2,000 years ago is that it has been self-regulating, and the state has been maintaining a relationship of arm's length. But you are correct when you say that this matter is actually not a holy matter. It's a secular matter, and therefore should be dealt with according to how the laws of succession are dealt with, whether you are an Induna or you are just an ordinary South African, black, white, Indian, and so on. And I think the church people will prefer that it's dealt with in a very secular manner. That's why they rush to the courts, hoping that the courts will be able to mediate being neutral. Yeah. But for most cases, I think this debate of how far can the state government go in controlling church affairs is a very hot potato at the moment, and there's court cases already even around that.
Yeah, because it's sometimes difficult to know what to render unto Caesar. Professor Musa Xolo,
Yes.
Xulu, theologian and religious expert.
EWN Business.
So, Khoripe, oil prices on the rise. Trump says it could be over in 2 weeks. But with more U.S. troops reaching the Gulf, there's no certainty about when this will end, is there?
No, there is no clear indication when this will stop. Crude prices extended gains during Asia trade this morning as escalating attacks in the Persian Gulf and U.S. President Donald Trump's signals on exiting Iran the Iran conflict cause more uncertainty on the market. The Brent contract prices for June delivery were up 1.5% at $105 a barrel. Prices surged more than 60% during the month of March in their strongest ever monthly rally dating back to 1988. Now, the May contract has also settled at about 5% higher at $118 per barrel. So between May and June, the price of oil should be between $105 and $118. But as the war continues, the price could continue to rise. The Kuwait Aviation Authority are saying Iranian drones targeted fuel tanks at Kuwait International Airport on Wednesday are causing a massive fire and damage to the tanks. So the war is definitely ongoing. The US-Israeli campaign against Iran has triggered a severe energy supply all around the world, stoking fears of a global recession.
And it's not just oil, it's also aluminium. Let's look at your indicators.
Well, the rand at 16 rand 88, still holding on to those marginal gains against the US dollar, 19 rand 54 against the euro, and at 22 rand 37 cents against the British pound. The price of gold at $4,679 an ounce, or platinum, is now at $1,957. Brent crude at $104 a barrel this morning. I'll have more business for you after 8.
7:31, your time check. This Eyewitness News is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now. You could save on your car insurance. If you don't, you can ask them for 500 rand. The soldiers are on the streets. Svisa Zulu, good morning.
That's right, Bongani. Good morning. And Parliament Portfolio Committee member on police, Darylyn James, says MPs will keep a close eye on the deployment of the army across the country. More than 2,000 troops are being deployed to 5 provinces from today to assist the police in cracking down on illegal mining, gang violence and organized crime. Operation Prosper, a year-long deployment involving SAPS and the SANDF and other law enforcement agencies to crime hotspots, was announced by President Cyril Ramaphosa during his State of the Nation address in February. James says she hopes the operation will help curb the gang and gun violence plaguing many communities. She says that Parliament will need to play a strong oversight role throughout this operation.
Because the last time we had such operations, we know that many of these cases were struck off the court roll. We know that because of delays at forensics, we know that there was discrepancies between the statement the arresting officer takes and what happens at the lab, because drugs goes missing at the labs. So in terms of oversight, we need to ensure that our forensic labs are capacitated right now. We need to make sure that these cases are actually placed on the court roll. We need to make sure that the handling of drug is done properly.
She's also called on communities to stop only taking videos of the deployed officers in their areas, but to help reclaim their communities from gangs.
I'm asking the communities to comply voluntarily. Stay indoors. Give all your support. Now is the time for you to pimp more than ever. This is your operation. Take full control of it.
Following the precautionary suspension of its Vice-Chancellor, the University of Fort Hare says it will now focus on instituting disciplinary action related to governance issues. Yesterday, the institution placed Professor Sakela Buhlungu on suspension after a forensic investigation found irregularities with the appointment of 2 executive directors. The university maintains the suspension is an interim measure and not a guilty finding on his part. Mongezi Gogo reports.
The decision follows a
Council meeting held on Monday where the findings of the forensic probe were considered. The investigation found that 4 senior management members, including Buhlungu, failed to comply with governance procedures as set out in the university statute. Council says the Vice-Chancellor was informed of the findings and given an opportunity to make representations before a final decision was taken. Following consideration of his response, Council resolved to institute disciplinary proceedings with the suspension remaining in place pending the outcome. In the interim, Dr. Ntaibi Taulem Jimba has been appointed as acting Vice-Chancellor. The university has acknowledged that the development may cause concern among staff and students, but says measures are in place to ensure stability and continuity of operations. Monki Zikoko, Eyewitness News.
Tshwane Mayor Nasipi Moya says the city will do all it can to protect its new water tankers. The 15 trucks have been bought to reduce reliance on the private sector. The metro will no longer rely on contractors for emergency tankers and it will use its own fleet. Asked whether security is in place to protect trucks from the so-called water tanker mafia, Moya emphasized that the city will do its best.
The first instance is obviously to be proactive. We know there may be a risk of saying there is a retaliation in some parts and it may be taken out on the officials that will be manning this function, which is the drivers. So that's why I'm saying the first thing is that there must be safety measures, including escorting them.
And at least 29 people have been killed in a military plane crash in the Crimean Peninsula. The Russian Antonov 26 military plane crashed yesterday. No signs of external impact were found on the aircraft's wreckage. Technical failure is believed to have caused the crash. A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures are at lows of 14 and 16 degrees, peaking at highs between 27 and 29.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N1 North in the city of Tshwane. This is just as you approach Rigel Avenue coming out of the Flying Saucer interchange. There's also bumper-to-bumper traffic reported on the N1 South through Midrand between the Baku interchange and New Road.
The top story this hour, Parliament Portfolio Committee member on police Darylyn James says MPs will keep a close eye on the deployment of the army across the country.
You may or may not know the difference between shares and bonds. But you do know a great OUTsurance deal when you see one, right? Get a car insurance quote now, and if OUTsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free with the same insurer for 3 years. Get savings or cash. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and information online.
Need a seat? Try 7 or 5, it's your call. Want a sunroof? Make it a panoramic. Gotta have power? How does award-winning 138 kilowatt sound? The Changan CS75 Pro is big enough for the kids, smart enough for your playlist, and stylish enough for your Friday night too. Why settle when you can have it all without compromise? The Changan CS75 Pro. Drive tomorrow's SUV today. Visit changanmotors.co.za for more.
Changan, driven to evolve.
Hi, this is Teko Modise, Hollywood Bet's brand ambassador. Be a winner who knows when it's time for a timeout and play responsibly. If you or someone you know needs help, call the South African Responsible Gambling Toll-Free Counseling Line on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No person under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop.
Joburg, Pretoria, this is Miss Jill Scott, and I am coming to see you.
Join 3-time Grammy Award winner Jill Scott for her To Whom This May Concern tour, performing classics like Golden, The Way, and new hits Pressure, Beautiful People, and more. 7 November at the Sunbet Arena, Times Square. Book now at ticketmaster.co.za. Jill Scott, in association with Showtime Management at 7:02.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Sanisha Pakarasamy is the investments chief economist. Sanisha, what is this going to do to inflation? As those new fuel prices come in, so many people will feel an impact immediately.
Many of our food products are actually transported by road, and so there can potentially be a food price impact about 3 to 6 months. There is a bit of a time lag by the time the food gets from the farmers to the end retailer. So the overall impact on the consumer can be a bit more significant.
The Money Show on
702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show, Stephen Curtis, is brought to you by ABSA Sponsorships. For 20 years, ABSA has been a proud sponsor of the ABSA Cape Epic. And now they're giving you a chance to take your grit to the gravel. Join Team ABSA Cycling on Strava. Upload your rides and you could win one of 2 ABSA Cape Epic 2027 team entries. Because your story matters. ABSA is a registered FSP.
702.
WhatsApp Bongani on 072
702 1702.
Good morning, Bongani. This is definitely unholy. You made me laugh. Oh, my word. Okay, so I'm thinking there should be a vote with the members of the congregation voting who the next leader should be, because this definitely, when it comes to the church, is not an inheritance. It's about the church. So the church should choose their leader. When it comes to the estate, that part needs to be shared because they're brothers. So that needs to be shared because the siblings, and it was, both of them, it was their dad. So that needs to be shared amongst them. But when it comes to the church, the congregation must decide.
Hi, Bongani in 702. Surely if these churches are making 400 million rands then and not paying any tax, it's a business, it's not really a charity. And we need to relook this whole issue of churches not paying tax because it's a loophole and these guys are getting away with it. Thank you.
With these churches and these succession things that have happened over the past as well, it all comes down to one thing: money. There's no worry about the magic wizard in the sky or whatever. It's all about money. It's just a big, disgusting, criminal business as far as I'm concerned. Robbing from the poor to pay the rich.
I mean, many people might have that view, but there are 3 million strong members of this church. I mean, it's extraordinary. The estate is worth 400 million rand. That is what the church itself owns. So I don't know if there should be some conversation about who inherits it, because none of those leaders should. It's money that belongs to the members, to the congregation. But at the point that leaders, in fact, they're all brothers, they're vying for control of the church on the basis of who their father was, not on the basis of what leadership or expertise they may offer the members of the congregation. The debate has gone right down to which of the sons comes from a legitimate marriage. And then there's an allegation of one of the 3 brothers trying to bribe a judge to rule in his favor. Where's the holiness in that? Doesn't that just give you then the picture of a money-making scheme from people who want to control the millions that, as some of these voice notes are suggesting, have been contributed to by people who are struggling? When does the bell ring? When do the members realize, hang on, maybe we're being taken for a ride here? I guess the point I'm making is it isn't always about drinking petrol and letting snakes bite you. Sometimes it's as little as a 10 rand note that you're expected to contribute every week.
702.
What's the question?
What's the question is brought to you by Outsurance, a chance for you to win up to 3,000 rand in cash. First, 1,000 rand for the answer, and then a little later, 2,000 rand if you can give us the question. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on your car insurance. If you don't, you can ask Outsurance for 500 rand. Today's answer comes from Daisy. Daisy, a very good morning to you. Please give us today's answer.
Hi, Bongani. Today's answer is 1961.
1961. And Daisy, have you got yourself a quote from Outsurance?
No, but I'm a member.
You biscuit. 1,000 rand is coming your way. All thanks to Outsurance in 702.
Thank you.
Don't spend it at church, hey? Congratulations, Daisy. All right, there you have it. 1961 is the answer from Daisy. What's the question? Call us if you know on 011 8830 702.
EWN Sport.
All right, Cindy Paluta, you did warn about Amelia Kerr.
Yeah.
Was your warning heeded?
What does heated mean? Did they listen to me? No,
yes.
they didn't get her out. They didn't get her out. Genuine question. What does heated mean? No, New Zealand women's captain, Amelia Kerr, put on a massive unbeaten 179. How do you even stop that to take their team to a 2-wicket win over Proteas in the second ODI? It's the highest successful run chase in women's ODI cricket history, getting the 347 needed with 2 balls to spare to level the series. Earlier, the Proteas posted 346 for 6. Bosch top scored with 91. Wolfart made 69. Tryon with 52 not out. The deciding ODI is on Saturday. Well, coach Hugo Broos says Bafana is far from ready for the World Cup. They lost 2-1 to Panama on a friendly last night. All 3 goals scored in the second half. Panama opened through Cordoba before Mbokazi scored a cracking equalizer, and then Ramos with the win for Panama.
I know that there are some weaknesses, still weaknesses in the team. We can't go with the level we have now to the World Cup. There has to be something more. And again, we can work on that, certainly. Maybe there will be other players that we can see in the next months again, and that can make our team better and stronger.
DR Congo and Turkey have finally qualified for the World Cup. Congo beat Jamaica 1-0 in extra time. Turkey beat Kosovo also 1-0. While disappointment for Italy, who failed to qualify for a third successive time. Bosnia-Herzegovina beat a 10-man Italy on penalties after the game finished 1-1. Also booking places at the World Cup. Sweden, who beat Poland 3-2, so no Lewandowski at this World Cup. Czech Republic beat Denmark on a penalty shootout. Czech Republic joins Bafana in Group A. Tottenham Hotspur have appointed Roberto De Zerbi as head coach, their third coach of the season, tasked with keeping them in the Premier League. And a huge blow for the Springboks. Lock Erges Neyman out for the rest of the year after rupturing his ACL in his right knee playing for Leinster. He'll miss all the Springbok games this year against England, Wales and Italy in July, as well as rugby's greatest rivalry against the All Blacks in August. Cindy Paluta, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
4:08, let's catch up with the roads. This EWN Traffic brought to you by Peugeot. Pretty tough. Amo?
Well, Bongani, there's queuing traffic on the N1 North between Beyaznodia Drive and Winnie Mandela Drive. Peak time delays there while traveling within the inner city areas in Ferndale as well as Parkmore. We are experiencing heavy traffic volumes along Winnie Mandela Drive, Sandton Drive, as well as Republic Road and Brampisha Drive. So please be on the lookout traveling around this area. We do have delays as well on the N3 North. Roadworks are causing delays in the Kelvin area. This is between Marlborough Drive and the Baklu interchange. And if you are leaving areas like Sunny Hill as well as Woodmead, do expect heavy delays on the N1 North towards Midrand through the city of Tshwane. Delays are between the Baklu turn-off and Allendale Road. Traveling in the south direction of this route, do expect delays as well due to an accident right after New Road. The delays are as you come out of the Brackfontein interchange. Please be on the lookout there and continue driving with care. More updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
When your business needs strength, reliability, and serious capability, look no further than Peugeot Professional Pickup Range. Built tough for South African conditions, Peugeot pickups are engineered for fleets, professionals, and the agricultural heroes who keep this country moving. From load capacity to fuel-efficient performance, these pickups work as hard as you do. So whether you're building, delivering, or farming, Peugeot has a model that's ready for the job. Visit your nearest Peugeot dealership today and power your business with the confidence of Peugeot Professional. Landtrek, it's pretty but tough.
702.
What's the question?
For 2,000 Rand in cash, all thanks to Outsurance. Please tell me what's the question. If the answer is 1961. Let's go to Warren. Warren, what's the question?
Good morning, Bongani. The question is, when was Susan Boyle born?
When was Susan Boyle born? Do you remember that powerful moment when she entered that reality show
Yes,
and the judges doubted her? They didn't think she had the look of a pop star. And then she opened her mouth.
Bongani, I can still see Simon Cowell's and Piers Morgan's face. They were both judges. And they were absolutely stunned. Simon Cowell still had a pencil in his mouth. And then wow, unbelievable.
Yeah. Look, she's battled ill health since then, But she did re-enter, I think, both America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent. She showed up again in the last couple of years, and she's still sounding as good as ever. Warren, congratulations. 2,000 Rand is coming your way. All thanks.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much, and I wish you a pleasant long weekend.
You too, Warren, calling us from the south of Johannesburg, winning 2,000 Rand there. And in case you can't quite remember that moment that Warren is talking about, let's remind you.
How old are you, Susan?
I am 47. And that's just one side of me.
Okay, what's the dream?
I'm trying to be a professional singer. I'm going to sing I Dreamed a Dream from the Miserables.
Okay, big song. Yeah? Yes.
I dreamed a dream in time gone by.
I mean, there she was, looking at it as about as plain Jane as you could imagine. She was 47 years old. She's entered this competition. They're looking for a pop star. She doesn't look anything like a pop star. And I think she also had some mental disability or challenges at least. And she was just not the kind of singer you expected to have that kind of voice. But she did, and she does.
When hope was high and life worth living, I dreamed that love would never die. I prayed that God would be forgiving. Then I was young and unafraid, when dreams were made and used and wasted. There was no ransom to be paid, no song unsung, no wine untasted. But the tigers come at night, with their voices soft as thunder, as they tear your hopes apart, and they turn your dream to shame.
I dreamed a dream. Susan Boyle.
You won't believe how much money Outsurance saves 40-year-old Rafiq on his car insurance.
I saved so much money. 899. That's not small change. It's more than 50% that I saved from my previous insurer.
That's an impressive saving on Rafiq's 2017 Nissan Navara 4x4. And after 3 claim-free years, he gets an out bonus. How much money could Outsurance save you? SMS OUT to 45142. That's OUT to 45142. Licensed insurer in FSP. TCs and information online.
Dreaming of a home renovation? We see you. Cash Build and Capitec bring you the partnership that has both the quality building materials you need and access to an affordable home improvement loan with competitive interest rates and extended repayment terms. Apply in-store at Cash Build or any Capitec branch between March 30th and April 30th to stand a chance to win a 20,000 Rand Cash Build voucher and other prizes. T's and C's apply. Capitec is an authorized provider and FSP. Initiation and service fee apply.
We at Monument Dental are very happy with the premium we're paying. I wish I did it sooner.
Outsurance business insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium when you switch? For dentistries, general medical practices, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance business insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
When you're running a small business, you need someone who speaks your language, who understands when you talk innovation, growth, scaling. Someone like MTN Business and 702. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards, from the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between. We want to talk about you and your business. Go to primemediaplus.com to enter your business or nominate one you know. Because once we start talking about where you are now, you'll be well on your way to reaching your next. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. T's, C's, and more on primemediaplus.com.
702
702. What's gone viral?
with Kabazela.
Time now for the world of viral content. Kabazela.
Good morning to you, Bella.
So, you know there's different love languages, right? I think there's touch. What are the other ones?
Words of affection, gifts.
Time, spending time.
Yeah, quality time.
Do you know what mine is?
Tell me.
Space. Give me space.
Don't know. Maybe that's why you're single.
Whole world giving me space, honey.
I think you should re-look at that one.
That's just a funny way to introduce this video, which I think
a
lot of people will relate to, but I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, space, especially when you're in queues. I don't know what it is about us, but we want to be as close as we can to the person in front of us. And I don't know why. Maybe it's a mental thing to think that if we are closer to the person in front of us, it'll speed up the queue. I don't know what it is. But then COVID came along, right? And it was like, you got to have that meter distance between each other. And I don't know so much if it stayed. I think it's kind of gone back to what it was. So there's this guy on TikTok who has made a video about people who want to creep up behind you. And, sometimes they'll cough or they'll be speaking on their phone. And it's not just on their phone. They've got the loudspeaker going as well. So you can hear the whole conversation. So queue dramas can be quite interesting sometimes. But let's take a listen to what he has to say.
When we are on the queue to pay for our groceries, can you please give us space? Give me space. Because you're breathing down my neck here. You are steaming my corpus luteum. Ne? And my problem is that mang shifter now yang landed. Mang shifter now yang landed. Bro, I'm shifting to show you to give me space. Why are you following? And you are here. My problem is that you are even breathing heavy. You are like on my neck. Bro, shifter, give me space, Satan.
I could just feel when he's going. I could feel it on my.
Yeah. Or my favorite is if you're in the queue and then they make that throat noise and they go. You know that noise. Yo.
Kabazela, you mean?
So let's talk about queues. What are some of the things that you hate about standing in the queues at the grocery aisle, or wherever it may be where you're in a queue? And do you do anything to try and, keep the space behind you? So some people will take the trolley and keep the trolley behind them because it separates you from the other person. Or you're just one of those people like, I don't really mind. It's fine. You can stand close to me. It's cool.
Yeah, no, I've definitely tried the trolley trick. Because sometimes people just don't understand what space means, particularly in small spaces, in enclosed spaces. All right, now tell us about the Industrial Revolution, Kabazela.
I thought this was an interesting one. So if you can think back to teachers who used unconventional methods to help you understand the subject and, not just referring to textbook stuff and reading the textbook. So there's this Brazilian teacher who's gone viral, and he's brought in his PlayStation 5 to teach the 8th graders about the Industrial Revolution. And he's used a video game called Assassin's Creed, which was set in 1868 in London, Victorian London, showcasing factory conditions, steam engines, and this whole, industrial revolution. And he walks them through it, and it's 3D, and a really, really interesting thing. You can imagine for 8th graders, they must have been really engrossed in what he was saying, rather than him just, reading from a textbook or slides or whatever it may be. So I wanted to ask our 702 family this morning about, can you remember a teacher who used unconventional methods to help you understand subjects? What did they do? Who were they? And what were some of the methods that they used? Now, I try to think of a teacher, and I really couldn't think of anyone who kind of used unconventional methods, besides Mr. van der Westhuizen, who was our geography teacher. And he used to bring out a keyboard and he would jam on his keyboard and he taught us very old songs like Elton John's Crocodile Rock. Nothing to do with geography, but it was hugely entertaining.
He'd sing
He
the
would
names
sing.
of places, for example.
No, it had nothing to do with the subject. He just loved to get the keyboard out in front of the class and teach us these songs. And we would all gather around and then we would sing. I remember when rock was young. And that's what some of the lessons were like. So, yeah.
With little geography being taught.
Exactly.
Wow. All right.
I know,
I
right?
don't know if that was a conventional, an unconventional teaching method or a teacher who wanted to be Susan Boyle.
702.
702. Feedback.
With Siamtanda Matiso.
Siamtanda Matiso, did you ever have a teacher who had unconventional methods?
I could only think of Mrs. Jordan when we were in primary. There were certain books that we would act out. So whoever wanted, because she was
Yeah.
also our drama teacher, so she would just make us act out what was in those books, and that was fun.
My favorite teacher was Mrs. Tucker, who taught us English. And I remember we were reading The Crucible. And she made us have a court case for and against the girls who were being
Nice.
charged with witchcraft, but we had to stick within the world of the book.
Yes. It's
Right?
always that
So, I was the prosecutor and Raymond, what was his name? Raymond Hocknell was the defense attorney.
And who won? I'm joking.
I mean,
I think Jonathan
Must
was
you
part of
ask?
School of Rock. He was being taught by Jack Black. With the geography.
what other feedback do you have?
Listen, many reacting to the draft learner pregnancy regulation that's being introduced by the Minister of Basic Education, Siviwe Gwahuba. You read that off your newspapers, and it's just to encourage teenagers to stay in school and not feel excluded if they come back from pregnancy.
Yeah.
And people had a lot to say about teenage pregnancy and how we are teaching kids. They're saying, like, actually, we should not be uncomfortable and having these uncomfortable conversations with our teenagers, and also stop shaming teenagers if they come into clinics and wanting to learn more about contraceptives and about teenage pregnancy. We always looking down on them, we always yelling at them, and maybe sitting down and having conversation about teenage pregnancy could eliminate this whole situation.
All right, we'll continue that conversation and many more. It's time for latest Eyewitness News.
This is EWN.
Joburgers come up with suggestions as they are concerned about the ripple effects of the fuel crisis, and political pressure forces action as Joburg's 3-year pothole saga finally get fixed. Good morning, I am Sfiso Zulu. Motorists are worried that the recent fuel hike will hit their pockets hard despite a temporary fuel levy reduction. The latest adjustments kicked in at midnight, with both grades of petrol increasing by more than 3 rand per litre, while diesel has gone up by more than 7 rand a litre. Although government has cut the fuel levy by 3 rand, these Joburgers have told EWN that they are still feeling the strain.
It is going to affect all pockets, whether you're wealthy or but it definitely affects the middle class and the lower income people. So that our government still has to probably look into that, and whether we can work from home and stuff.
It's a downright impact cost of the war that's being passed on to the people.
It's really a bad thing. Let's hope maybe something can be done.
Taxi commuters are being assured that any fare hikes will be approached with consideration. Santaco spokesperson Machikiti Pala says they are assessing the impact of the latest increase on operational costs and profit margins.
We will not introduce fare increases that will chase away our commuters. At a national level, Santaco's leadership remains actively engaged with government to explore further support measures aimed at further cushioning both the industry and its commuters from the ongoing financial strain.
And in the capital, Tshwane Mayor Nasipi Moya says the city is in discussions with national government on how to mitigate the reported fuel outage affecting municipal buses. The service in the metro has been significantly affected by the crisis, with all 3 of its depots running extremely low. Alfara Mushwana takes a look.
The Tshwane bus service is one of the most affordable and accessible modes of transport for thousands of workers, students and daily commuters. It normally runs about 155 shifts per day and covers about 3,500 bus stops across the capital city. Tshwane Mayor Nasipi Moya says an urgent solution is needed.
We're going to rely on the president and the ministers to guide us in terms of how do we work together. But in the city, we do have just a short-term plan on how we're going to work together with the small supply that we have.
She says all hands must be on deck.
At least it happens when the kids are at home, but it's not going to end next week. So there's a lot of work that we are doing also with the Ministry of Transport.
Although the new petrol prices took effect today, many motorists have reported fuel shortages at several petrol stations. Alfa Ramshwana, Eyewitness News, Pretoria.
The city of Joburg has fixed a massive pothole in Douglasdale that has been ignored for 3 years after a video surfaced of DA mayoral candidate Helen Zille swimming in it. Zille, in snorkeling gear, is seen dip inside the water-filled hole that covered half the road. Mayor Dada Morero says the pothole was caused by a burst steel pipe that remained unfixed for years. Jabuli Lembata has more.
In the video, DA mayoral candidate for Johannesburg, Helen Zille, alleges there's a method to why this pothole has not been fixed.
When the grader comes in the dead of night so that people can earn overtime, they burst the pipe again.
The video got the swift response of Joburg Mayor Dada Morero, who visited the site and initiated repair work. Morero urges residents to report burst pipes and other service delivery issues on an app called Joburg Connect.
Place a report there because it also gives you an opportunity as a customer to also track progress on that particular query you would have logged.
The Johannesburg Road Agency says they will begin the road surfacing with tar today. Jabuli Lembata, Eyewitness News.
Corruption accused Vusumuzi Kat Matlala is questioning the authenticity of messages purportedly from his devices and considered by Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating police corruption. In a lawyer's letter to the committee, Matlala is demanding that the committee provides details of where, how and from whom it obtained the information. His lawyer is also requesting the committee to provide transcripts of all witness testimony given about Matlala. Matlala appeared before Parliament at a special sitting held at Kgosi Mampuru prison last November, where he was being detained at the time. Lindsay Dentlinger reports.
Vusumuzi Matlala's lawyer says the ad hoc committee used information purportedly retrieved from his client's personal devices and from correspondence either sent from him or to him via WhatsApp. But after having already given testimony on their contents, Matlala is now questioning how the committee obtained this evidence. His lawyer has sent Parliament a slew of questions about the extraction process and asking the committee to provide details of the devices from which the information was taken. But Parliament legal advisor Andile Tetjana says Matlala signed a consent form for the extraction of information by the SAPS in May 2025 and that he voluntarily discussed the contents during his testimony before the committee.
The point we're making, Chairperson, is that Mr. Matlala's legal representatives have their facts crossed and they are backing up the wrong tree.
In further correspondence to the committee, Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia says he will give MPs access to a classified report that deals with the acquisition of properties by police crime intelligence for a limited period. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And the Gulf states are unified in calling for a de-escalation of the Middle East war as Iran launched new strikes against its neighbors. Gulf countries have faced repeated drone and missile salvos over the past month in response to US and Israeli strikes that began at the end of February. Iran has targeted hydrocarbon infrastructure in the oil-rich Gulf nations while effectively closing shipping in the strategic Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of global oil usually passes. Qatar's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Majid Al-Ansari says they welcome any discussions of ending the war.
Our views about any talks, if they exist, are consistent with our very principled position that all conflicts will end on the negotiation table, and we support all of these efforts. We stand ready to help, of course.
Gold's trading at $4,696.81 an ounce. The rand is at 16.89 to the dollar, 22.39 to the pound, 19.54 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $104.50 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N1 South. This is between the Barkfontein interchange and Olifantsfontein Road. This is due to an accident. Please be on the lookout there and expect about a 20-minute hold-up. Traveling in four ways, we've got heavy traffic volumes on the N1 North leaving Winnie Mandela Drive. This is due to peak time delays.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 27 and 29 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Motorists are worried that the recent fuel hike will hit their pockets hard despite a temporary fuel levy reduction.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
9 minutes after 8 o'clock. I asked you the question, who's winning the campaign war, the PR war so far around the city of Joburg? They just played those two clips in the news bulletin now. Sfiso Zulu, Helen Zille snorkeling in a pothole in Douglasdale. She says it hasn't been touched in 3 years. Tata Morero rushing to the scene a few days later and saying it will be dealt with. There's a much bigger story here, of course, including this 10 billion rand wage deal agreed with the South African Municipal Workers Union. Where are you on that debate? Remember, the DA tried to stop this and it was dismissed in court in terms of urgency, not on merit but on urgency. So it's going ahead. Helen Zille's argument is that 10.3 billion rand is being diverted to the workers of entities like City Power, Joburg Water, and Pick It Up. And we know the city has been bedeviled by all kinds of infrastructure crises, right? When it comes to water, electricity, and refuse removal. She says this money is being diverted to go to the workers instead of budgets for the maintenance and even new infrastructure. The workers say, hang on. The ANC says, hang on, the workers deserve wage increases. Yes, they do. But who do you think is really going to get most of that money? Not the refuse removers. Think of what the CEOs, the boards, the executives of these entities earn. Or do you buy the argument that this is just an anti-worker position by the DA? They don't like the workers, you see. Or, as Helen Zille says, yeah, you can be pro-worker all you want, but what about those who don't even have jobs? Do they deserve rotting and failing infrastructure because you want to divert money to workers that you are hoping will vote for you? Where do you sit on this debate? Where should that 10 billion rand go? To the workers or to the city? It's your money.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Kabazela wants to know, did you have a teacher who had unconventional teaching methods and what impact did that have on you? And Muteo Kharipe, how do you feel about people breathing down your neck in queues? So you're a tall guy, you probably don't feel as uncomfortable as people who might not be as tall as you are, where you can literally feel their breathing.
Yeah, but some
neck.
people really get close. So what I tend to do is stand sideways or against the till and then just spread my legs a little bit so there's a bit of space so that you can tell that, okay, I'm far too close now. Or if I've got a trolley, I'll just put it behind me so I make sure you're as far away from me as possible.
And chatty people in queues?
It depends what we're chatting about. Can't be too long, man. I mean, I can't go into my life story at the till.
You're at a sale and it's snaking. You are far from the till.
I won't mind it then because
you're renewing your license.
We're killing time.
Amo?
Good luck to you if you bump into me at a queue because I can talk to people, random people about random things. If you have a baby with you, even worse because I will entertain that baby far and beyond.
You're one of those.
But I don't want for people to come close to me. If you are too close, I tell you, please give me space. Can you give me...
Unless I have a baby.
No, even if you have a baby, please move away from me. I'll entertain your baby, but at a distance.
We're also asking you, what's your feeling about how society deals with teenage pregnancy? It's a reality. The Basic Education Minister has put together some proposals, some regulations as part of the Bella Act to say that kids who fall pregnant in school should be allowed back into the classroom, should be assisted, supported rather than shunned. Do you think society is there? Are parents ready to have these conversations when so many don't even want their kids taught about sex at school? Where are we on that debate?
Let's talk.
We're listening.
Hey, Kabazela, you just took me back. The story of the teacher with the guitar. We used to have a teacher, Mrs. Nodia. She was the music teacher. But then she would also, I can't even remember what the subject was. I think it was like life skills or life orientation or whatever. But in her class, all we did was sing. She'd play the guitar and we'd sing. And she'd teach us all of these old songs. Both Simon and Garfunkel would sing. We used to sing Yesterday, Hello Darkness, My Old Friend, and even Hava Nagila. We used to sing all of these very old songs that she used to. And we just knew that that subject is just singing for the whole subject. Oh, you just took me back. I know everyone who went to Penryn College remembers Mrs. Nodia.
Morning, 702, Bongs and Kavazel and the team there. Kumo from Biovo. Well, with us back in primary school, we'd read a book. And then after reading the book, for better understanding, the teachers would always try and get us the videotape, and then they'd make a day where we'd go and as a whole class and actually watch the movie about the book that we are reading. So it makes things very easy to understand. Cheers.
Unconventional teaching methods and their impact on you.
EWN Traffic.
8:15, the CWN Traffic brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 and you could save on your car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Amo?
Bongani, we've got delays on the N3 South between Modderfontein Road and the Glulies interchange. Please expect about a 20-minute hold up there. There's also queuing traffic on the N3 North towards the Glulies turn off coming out of the Airlines interchange. Peak time delays there. There's also peak time pressure reported on the N1 North. This is between Winnie Mandela Drive and Rivonia Road, and then again approaching the Baklu turn off. I'll have more updates coming up. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Sitting in a traffic jam is as fun as a root canal on a Monday morning. Not fun, right? Well, fortunately, the Outsurance pointsmen are on the roads to ease traffic congestion so that everyone gets to where they need to quickly and safely. They've been doing it for the past 20 years. Outsurance really means it when they say you always get something out. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with Bongani Bingwa.
702 weekday mornings, 6 to 9 a.m.
For the last 25 years, L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science Sub-Saharan Africa program has been championing women, particularly understanding the importance of having women in STEM careers. This is about real-world impact, from environmental solutions to technological breakthroughs. And to tell us more about what is in store for the L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science today is Michelle Hololo, who is, of course, the program leader who joins us in studio. Michelle, a very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Bongani, and good morning to the listeners.
Well, tell us about this initiative, the L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science initiative.
As you've mentioned, for 25 years, we've been championing the support for women in science. The L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science program stemmed from understanding that women are really underrepresented in the science field. And as L'Oreal, most people will know it as a cosmetic company, but we are a science-based company. Innovation is in our DNA. And what best way to give back than empowering women in STEM? As you know, STEM has got great potential to really solve the global world challenges that we're facing.
Yeah, indeed, because you don't have a product line if there's no science to back it up, right?
Exactly.
So why is this a program that women scientists should pay attention to?
Women scientists should pay attention to it, Bongani, because not only do we provide them with the grants and the financial support they need to further their studies, but we're providing them with access to a whole wide of women community scientists. And this is on a global stage. And that means more collaborations, more engagements with other women-elect scientists. And we also offer you we always say leadership skills. We offer you negotiation skills, because as women, you need to be able to walk into the room and say, hey, I'm here, recognize me and find my work.
What challenges do women, particularly on the African continent, face when it comes to STEM careers?
The biggest challenge, as I've mentioned, Bongani, is funding. Women find that once you're now in your PhD, you are now in your postdoctorate, funding is not something that is easily available. So funding has been one of the biggest challenges, which is where we come in as L'Oréal UNESCO to provide that funding for the ladies. Another challenge is the fact that, science, when we grew up, has always been a man type of field. So women are not really encouraged to take up science fields. And it's one of those that when you're coming in, it's not easy for you to just get up and show up. So those are some of the challenges that we find. And as L'Oréal, we found, it's very important for us to also, in terms of bridging the gap and making sure that women are sitting on the same footing as, their counterparts in the science field. That's where we come in to bridge that gap.
All right, so you're offering an opportunity for women, particularly in STEM careers. What is that opportunity, and how do people access, how do they get in?
So the program caters for postdoctorates and PhD female scientists who are in, whether you're doing health sciences, environmental sciences, engineering, chemical engineering, all the information can really be found on our l'orealunesco.com website for all the information. And then for PhD students, we have a grant amount of about 200,000, which you use to further your research studies. And for postdocs, we're looking about 300,000, which goes a long way in really helping to solve the world challenges.
I know one Dr. Bambesiwe May is a previous awardee. How did this help her journey?
Bambisiwe is actually now currently she's in our cohort right now. So how this is helping her, like I said, more than funding, Bongani, we are opening up doors for her. And in terms of, like I said, making sure that now she is have got access to, women in science, the sisters that can support in the field. And, when you look at L'Oréal UNESCO on your badge, it offers you visibility. And I had a conversation with her, and she's like, now that I even moved from my university, because, somebody mentioned that, oh, you are a L'Oréal UNESCO a laureate. So more than anything, visibility, it opens doors, and it really gives you a step ahead in careers.
That's why I was excited to talk to you about this conversation, because more of that, please. Michelle Hololo is the program lead for the L'Oréal UNESCO for Women in Science initiative. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bongani.
702, The World View
with Adam Gilchrist.
Right, let's catch up with news from elsewhere in the world. Adam Gilchrist. We're, of course, keeping an eye on developments in the Gulf, but also what it means for traditional NATO allies. Donald Trump not sparing his criticism.
Absolutely. He's weighed in again, and it does feel sometimes like Donald Trump has only good words to say for Vladimir Putin and the Iranian regime and Kim Jong-un, and you name them, and then only bad words for European allies, as you say, more traditional allies. So the president has posted a message on his Truth Social saying, go get your own oil, to the UK and France and others who he feels did not back up America and still are not backing up America in trying to reopen the Hormuz Strait, although that seems to have been removed as an objective. It's all about stopping Iran's nuclear program and, quote, pushing them back to the Stone Age. But as he put it, you have to start learning how to fight for yourself. This is aimed at NATO allies who've been NATO allies for quite some time. We won't be there, this is the USA, we won't be there to help you anymore like you weren't there for us. Anyone else thinking of the joint operations carried out with the Americans in World War I, World War II, Korea, the Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, quite a few. All sorts of anti-drugs operations as well around the world, which have been dual missions. But as he put it, the hard part is done in Iran. Go get your own oil, which is, of course, not the way the world works. At the same time that he was posting this message, I mean, almost to the minute, certainly to the hour, it was confirmed that King Charles will make a state visit to America at the end of this month, confirmed and warmly welcomed by Donald Trump. It does raise a few questions, certainly here, about whether state visits are about trying to smooth over and paper over the cracks or meant to be some sort of affirmation of an accord. Not quite sure what's going on with it.
Now, Adam, what might a wolf be doing in an urban center? Maybe going to the Depart Mat store?
I see what you do there. In this particular instance, he was outside an IKEA store, so obviously hunting around for a choice bit of furniture. Although how a wolf would put together a flat pack wardrobe is beyond me. But there was the wolf in Grosse Bergstrasse in inner city Hamburg, in a major shopping street in the middle of the day, broad daylight, and a woman spotted the wolf and thought she would lead it away. I'm nervous about hedgehogs and certainly foxes, let alone a wolf. So she spotted the wolf, thought she'd lead it away, at which point the wolf turned around and bit her in the face, which could have gone even worse. She suffered an injury and was taken to hospital, but not thought to be a life-altering injury ultimately. So maybe she got lucky there. But the point with wolves is that they died out largely because wolves do not live happily alongside humankind. So Germany lost all its wolves, as did an awful lot of country. But Germany reintroduced wild wolves 30-odd years ago after the fall of the Berlin Wall. There are now nearly 200 wolf packs recorded in Germany, not the U-boats. Of course, they were called wolf packs in their day. Many countries have re-wolfed. France, Belgium, you wouldn't think there'd be room. The Netherlands, you wouldn't think there'd be anywhere to hide for a wolf there. Denmark, Norway, Mexico, several US states have all brought back wolves, but have also, in many cases, brought back wolf hunting. Germany included. Is there a yin and a yang to that? Let's bring back the wolf and then let's hunt them. Not sure.
What, you might be going on a European safari next, Adam Gilchrist. What's this?
Sounds like it. Why not?
All right, now tell me about NASA's new mission to the moon.
Yeah, it's meant to start today, later today, afternoon Florida time. The clock is ticking for Artemis 2 to blast off with 4 astronauts on board. Artemis 1 went without people around the moon 3.5 years ago. Artemis 2 will go around the moon with people. Artemis 3 will land astronauts on the moon, and then ultimately they hope, I think they changed the name, but anyway, ultimately they hope off to Mars in the not too distant future. Not since Apollo 17 in 1972 have human beings touched down on the moon's surface, or really been that close to the lunar object. The official status of Artemis 2, by the way, is we are 80% go, which is lovely NASA speak for it, unless the weather's a bit rubbish, in which case So this is certainly reigniting an interest. I've seen lots of papers, lots of online articles getting very interested in space and space exploration again. There may well have to be some small steps and some giant leaps before we actually get to Mars, but this is a good one, or an interesting one anyway.
Watch REM's Man on the Moon re-enter the charts. Adam Gilchrist with this morning's Worldview.
EWN
27 after 8 is wrap up the morning's business. We've been talking about price increases, fuel, electricity, but Muteo, life goes on. Obladi, Oblada. Tell me about the Chinese maker Chery. They're pledging to open a manufacturing plant in South Africa.
Yeah, Chery International is planning a multi-billion rand vehicle production in South Africa. The company will recommission the old Nissan plant in Rosslyn, Pretoria, with a production of Chery vehicles in South Africa expected to begin by 2027. The announcement was made at the 6th South African Investment Conference yesterday. The conference has an ambitious target of attracting 2 trillion rand in new investment commitments over the next 5 years. years. Some major announcements included the 10.4 billion rand investment by Toyota in KwaZulu-Natal to support the automotive sector's energy transition, while Sasol committed 60 billion rand to modernizing operations in Mpumalanga and the Free State. Other investments span mining, renewable energy, infrastructure, and global business services.
Now, Mateo, my dog's name is Babushka, as many know. What's his favorite rusk? You're about to find out.
Well, the makers of Oma rusks and Yum Yum peanut
I'd be
butter.
worried if they made Oma rusks. Not that one.
No, the brand is
Oma.
Oma rusks and Yum Yum peanut butter. RCL Foods will take over pet food producer Martin & Martin for close to 700 million rand. RCL Foods is looking to capture the high-growth wet pet food and broader pet care categories. The South African pet food industry is robust and growing with a market value of over 15 billion rand, with total pet care spending, including on food, estimated at around 8 billion rand annually. The acquisition brings a suite of household names under the RCL Foods brand, including Husky, Pampa, Beano, and Bob Martin.
Woof, 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 woof. Let's have a look at the markets. Are they barking?
Yeah, the rand has a dog in the fight at 16 rand 90 against the dollar, 19 rand 54 against the euro, and 22 rand 41 cents against the British pound. Price of gold at $4,686 an ounce, while platinum is also up at $1,953 an ounce. Brent crude now at $103 a barrel. That's your morning business. Stephen Grotes with more this afternoon.
Up next, we speak to another corporate that cares. This is something we do most Wednesdays, highlighting the efforts of brands and companies that are walking the talk to make a difference in South Africa. Up next, the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa are going to be telling us about the difference they are making, so stay tuned for that one. But to the news we go. The top dog, Sfisa Zulu himself. Sfisa, good morning.
Thanks, Barney. Good morning. Some economists say Treasury's decision to cut the fuel levy spells a positive outlook on easing inflation, despite motorists still digging deeper in their pockets. Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana announced a fuel levy cut of 3 rand for April. The ongoing conflict in the Middle East has led to a global ripple effect of high oil prices, with crude prices rising to around more than $100 a barrel. Chief economist at Momentum Investment, Sanisha Pickersmay.
Given that we've had this announcement of the 3 rand cut in the fuel levy, that should shave off about 0.4 to 0.5 percentage points from that peak rate of inflation as we head into April.
Government's last cut to the fuel levy at 1 rand was in 2022 of 1 rand 50 after Russia invaded Ukraine. She says the fiscal measures at the time were a lot poorer than they are today.
Going into the February budget, the corporate tax revenue receipts and assumptions for future corporate tax revenues were looking quite healthy. We also have a contingency reserve that's baked into the budget. And so there is a little bit of leeway for government to, in fact, spend on that 3 rand per litre. And I think it's going to be reasonably good investment from the fiscal side, given that it does prevent that inflation spike from peaking at an even higher rate. And then, of course, that alleviates the pressure on the monetary policy side as we see fiscal policy work hand in hand with monetary policy.
The City of Cape Town says it is ready to support SAPS and the SANDF in tackling violent crime in identified hotspots across the metro. Soldiers have been deployed from today to assist police in dismantling organised crime networks, gang violence and illicit mining operations across 5 provinces. Ntutu Zelonene reports.
At least 40 people were killed in Cape Town last month amid ongoing gun violence. City of Cape Town Law Enforcement Acting Commissioner Christopher Jones says the situation cannot be allowed to continue.
The gangs must run. We must take charge. And we need to make sure that we support South African Police Service as well as SANDF.
He adds that the use of technology will be crucial in their operations.
Do I have the digital capacity to be able to prove evidence in court? And that will be our support from the city side.
Communities are also being urged to work with deployed officers to help curb crime. Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News.
Following the precautionary suspension of its Vice-Chancellor, the University of Fort Hare says it will now focus on instituting disciplinary action related to governance issues. Yesterday, the institution placed Professor Sakela Plungo on suspension after a forensic investigation found irregularities with the appointment of 2 executive directors. The university maintains the suspension is an interim measure and not a guilty finding on his part. Mongezi Koko reports.
The decision follows a council meeting held on Monday where the findings of the forensic probe were considered. The investigation found that 4 senior management members, including Buhlungu, failed to comply with governance procedures as set out in the university statute. Council says the Vice-Chancellor was informed of the findings and given an opportunity to make representations before a final decision was taken. Following consideration of his response, Council resolved to institute disciplinary proceedings with the suspension remaining in place pending the outcome. In the interim, Dr. Ntaibi Taule Mjimba has been appointed as acting Vice-Chancellor. The university has acknowledged that the development may cause concern among staff and students, but says measures are in place to ensure stability and continuity of operations. Monkey Zikoko, Eyewitness News.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng today. The temperatures will peak at highs between 27 and 29 degrees.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the N1 South. This is between the Brakfontein Interchange and Olifantsfontein Road. This is due to an accident. There's also queuing traffic reported on the N1 North between the Baklu Interchange and Allendale Road.
The top story this hour, some economists say Treasury's decision to cut the fuel levy spells a positive outlook on easing inflation.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
What is your reaction to the court's decision?
We note that the court have ignored the media statement of the president, where the president has decided to follow the same open and transparent process that led to the appointment of the current National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Patoy. The judgment on the face of it, it's appealable. We are encouraged also by the court that this is a constitutional matter.
The Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
Hi, this is Alia Itzebet, Hollywood Bed's brand ambassador. A reminder that you can still shoot for the stars while playing responsibly. If you or someone you know needs help, call the South African Responsible Gambling toll-free counselling line on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop.
Progress builds, it moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With 1.6 billion rand unlocked for entrepreneurs through our Impact Finance Network. 58 billion rand invested through our Kumba Iron Ore business into infrastructure development, healthcare, community upliftment, and more. These are a few examples proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. As a sponsor of this year's South African Investment Conference, we continue to work with our partners to unlock our country's full potential. South Africa has a partner. Anglo-American. Mining potential. Building beyond.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. It will leave you feeling overwhelmed. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim to make those important calls. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Small business owners speak a language of their own. It's a language MTN Business and 702 understand very well. And that's why we're celebrating SMEs who walk that entrepreneurial talk in the 702 MTN Small Business Awards. From the townships to the suburbs and everywhere in between, small businesses are proving that big things can grow from bold ideas. Now, if that sounds like your business or one you know, go to primemediaplus.com to enter or nominate them. Because once we start talking about your business, who knows how much further it could go. The 702 MTN Small Business Awards. Let's talk shop. T's and C's apply.
702.
WhatsApp Bongani on 072
702 1702.
Mr. Bongani,
Let me say ANC should just accept that they shot themselves on the foot long time ago, not thinking that it will come back and hit them very, very, very hard. Look at what Helen Zille is doing. She's using all the advantages, all the opportunities, all the fault that ANC has created. And she's just like that. Just like that. And a lot of people, including myself, are happy with her to be the mayor. Very easy tactics. Very, very easy tactics. Let's just give her a chance and possibly she will fix Joburg. Last one here.
Good morning, Bongi. Laken here from Kliptown. I think Helen's campaign is speaking to our daily needs, like the potholes and working traffic lights. It's those simple things that the current government is struggling with that makes our lives just a little bit easier. Those potholes and burst pipes causes us high blood pressure before you even reach the office. So big ups. I can't wait for Helen to be mayor.
Hi Bongani, how are you? You know the funny thing about Helen Zille video? I saw it on YouTube and actually I thought maybe it was an AI. Hey, I swear to God, I thought it was an AI. I skipped and I saw it on Instagram sometimes. I was like, Helen Zille, what is going on with you? Like, oh my God, the things that happen in South Africa now, they're getting better and better.
Yeah, I mean, it's gaining traction, isn't it? Are you beginning to notice? Do you have a sense that the electioneering is well and truly underway in full swing? And who is ahead of the campaigning war?
EWN Sport.
Cindy Paluta, the Proteas women not faring so well against New Zealand, hey?
No, but we did so well up until... Anyway.
Look, it means Saturday's game is going to be, it would have been a dead rubber had we won.
I would have liked a dead rubber, Bongani. I'm not looking for excitement in my life at the moment. I'm quite happy, thank you. And I'm going to always take a victory over let's make it exciting. So New Zealand beat the Proteas on by 2 wickets, setting the record for the highest successful run chase in women's ODI cricket, reaching 347 with 2 balls to spare. The Proteas sent into bat posted what really did look like a defendable 346 for 6. Bosch made 91, Wolford with 69, tried unbeaten on 52. But once again, it was the unstoppable New Zealand captain, Amelia Kerr, who was just unbeaten on 179. Proteas captain Laura Wolfhard speaking on SuperSport after the match.
Yeah, she batted excellently today. It almost felt like we had no answers to her. You know, when we went Yorkers, she had a lap. When we bowled spin, she had sweeps. She just sort of has all the shots and just used them excellently today. I think that phase right before the death really hurt us. I think her partnership with Gaze, that 100-run partnership, that put us on the back foot.
The deciding ODI, as you said, Bongani, is on Saturday. Last 6 spots for the FIFA World Cup have finally been filled, but Italy won't be in one of those. They lost to Bosnia-Herzegovina on penalties after a 1-1 draw. It's the 3rd time in a row Italy's failed to qualify. DR Congo waited 52 long years, but they will finally be there after 1-0 extra time win over Jamaica. Turkey are qualifying for the first time since 2002. They beat Kosovo 1-0. No Lewandowski at the World Cup as Poland lost to Sweden 3-2. Czech Republic find themselves in Bafana's Group A. They beat Denmark on penalties. Bafana coach Hugo Bross admits there's plenty of work to do after last night's 2-1 loss to Panama. All 3 goals scored in the second half. Panama opened through Cordoba before Mbakazi scored a cracking equalizer, and then Ramos with the win for Panama.
Again, I know that, and that was not the goal of this game, to say after the game we are ready. It's still 3 months to go. But again, it was interesting to see what we still need. And this is something we are going to work on.
The Springboks won't have Luck Erges Neyman for the rest of the year. He ruptured his ACL in his right knee playing for Leinster. Leinster coach Jacques Nienaber.
Yeah, no, devastating ACL injury, but things like that happen, and hopefully we'll get it. He's obviously going to get it fixed soon, and then his rehab will begin. It's devastating for us, and I think for him, you know, if you think about, he had a couple when he was with Munster.
Cindy Paluta, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Right, 18 minutes before 9 o'clock. Let's wrap up the morning's traffic. It's been a busy-ish day, Amo.
It has been a very busy one indeed, Bongani, particularly because of the accidents that we saw early this morning, like on the N1 South between the Brakfontein interchange and Olifantsfontein Road. That accident caused about a 30-minute hold-up there. It's been cleared, but traffic remains heavily backed up, also due to the peak time delays at this time of the morning. If you were traveling in the Fourways area, do expect delays on the N1 North. This is between Winnie Mandela Drive and Rivonia Road. There's also queuing traffic reported on the N12 as well as the R24 West between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange. While heading towards the Kilulis turnoff, do expect delays on the N3 North bumper-to-bumper traffic there between the Geldenhuys turnoff and the Kilulis interchange. More updates at the top of the hour. Do stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Hi, Bongani and 702. With regards to the price hikes for electricity that keep coming every year and much higher than inflation at that, when are we going to look at the structure of Eskom and how efficiently Eskom actually runs? I've been told by a person who works at Eskom that there are like dozens of managers at the head office who literally do nothing the whole day. Literally, they don't really have a job. So should we not get some, I'm not sure what kind of companies these are, that check on the efficiency and who's doing what in the company and see who's needed and who's not? Because we can't keep doing this. I mean, the people of South Africa are really under strain. The lower income families literally can't afford electricity. The middle class is really struggling, and in a year or two, maybe 3 years, with above inflation price hikes, they're not going to be able to afford electricity anymore. So something we need to look at, please. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, it feels like we are being battered on all sides because we're dealing with now fuel increases. Certainly food is going to be much higher. You heard about paraffin earlier today. That has practically doubled. So that's going to make it a lot more difficult for people, particularly who earn low incomes, to be able to cook their food and warm up their homes as we head towards the colder months. And then, of course, electricity is also going to be higher. As a consumer, we are being battered on all sides.
Coming up
on the Clement Manyatela Show
on 702.
Clement Manyatela, of course, no doubt is going to reflect on some of that and so much more in the open line between 9 and 12. He joins us now to tell us what's on the show. Clement, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Brabongs. We are going to pick up from that. Why are you laughing at Brabongs?
No, you're just being nice to me.
So,
you're
on
never
the open
nice
line
to me.
today, Brabongs, we are going to pick up from that conversation, looking at that price of paraffin. I was actually listening to the DDG at the energy department this morning on early breakfast. So I'll see if I can cut that clip where he explains why they have not really been able to at least interfere in as far as the relief is concerned with the price of paraffin, because they're focusing on the fuel levy and there's no levy attached to that. So I'm going to cut that clip just so we get listeners to understand why that goes up, even though there's a relief on the price of fuel. We'll also talk about the PR machine in as far as Helen Zille's campaign is concerned. I heard you also touch on that. I'm interested in our listeners' thoughts about how her campaign is really being driven in the city of Johannesburg. But at 10 o'clock, we're going to do our monthly feature, which we started last month. We call it Exploring Spirituality with Vusumzi Ngande. So last month, we started by looking at religion in a changing world. So we're going to have part 2 of that conversation because we were overwhelmed with calls and we couldn't get to everyone else. So we're going to extend that conversation today. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our Listener's Choice feature. Today, we've been asked by one of our listeners to discuss the increased recalling of certain cars and car models. So that's at 11 o'clock. And then we wrap up the show at 11:30 with the sharing space.
Clement Manyatela between 9 and 12.
When I say insurance, you say pineapple. Insurance.
Pineapple.
Insurance.
Pineapple.
Insurance.
Pineapple.
Pineapple FSP 48650 is underwritten by Omart Insure Limited, a licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP.
New from the House of Sichuan.
So stylish.
470-litre boot space. I need it.
Keyless entry. So chic.
Cruise control. Oh, bonjour.
4-year or 60,000 kilometers service plan. Oui.
The stylish, all-new Citroën Basalt is here. You want a piece of it. Starting from 354,900 Rand. Register now for limited deal assist of up to 40,000 Rand. Visit citroen.co.za. T's and C's apply.
Every Easter, alcohol accelerates harms for families in South Africa. Our roads become deadly. Alcohol fuels violence and destroys our communities. This Easter, let's reduce the harms caused by alcohol. Increase excise tax above inflation. Excise tax is protection. For more information, follow the true cost of alcohol.
This is Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
12 minutes before 9 o'clock. It is a Wednesday, and that means it's time for a corporate that cares. Corporates that care, of course, is an initiative in which we recognize the efforts of companies and brands that are walking the talk to make a better South Africa, and we highlight the work that they do. As you might imagine, getting to school or work can feel like a real struggle. It's certainly going to feel a lot more like that in the coming days. We've been talking all morning, all week, really, about the increase in the price of fuel costs. Taxi fares are going to go up. Buses are going to go up. Quite apart, of course, from how packed those modes of transport often are. Scholar transport has been a big issue in South Africa in the last little while. So the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa are stepping up. They are not just restoring the trains, they say they're creating reliable, safe and affordable ways of millions of South Africans to get around. For example, they've got a scheme where school children traveling in full uniform get 50% off the fare, dedicated scholar coaches to keep them safe while building a sense of community on the rails. To talk about the work that they're doing, we've got Prasa's Group CEO, Mr. Hisham Emran, to talk to us about all of that. He's here with us in studio. A very good morning to you and welcome to 702 Breakfast.
Thank you, Bongani, and good morning to your listeners as well.
So finally we do this, sitting across from you. I always start this conversation with a very simple question. Why are you a corporate that cares?
Well, firstly, Bongani, if I may just say up front, Prasa is a state-owned entity. And we are happy to share our remarkable journey in terms of the turnaround that you have seen at Prasa, particularly in the last 3 to 4 years. So in your opening remarks, when you mentioned the service that we can offer, it's on the back of an improved service, on the back of turning around this company. You have seen over the last 3 to 4 years, we've recovered 35 out of the 40 corridors nationally. We are now running and restored services on over 85% of our corridors around the country. Not only that, as part of this rollout, we are modernizing the rail network. You would have seen the blue trains, the new blue trains that are running on our network. We are proud of these new modern trains. It's one of Prasa's flagship projects. These trains are being manufactured here in South Africa. It's really a successful story of a manufacturing capability that we have established in this region. The factory is here in Gauteng as we speak. And these trains have brought around greater customer satisfaction. You've mentioned the scholars that we have, where they get half price throughout the day, any time of the day, provided they're in uniform. But it's not only there. Pensioners also receive half price, as well as our military veterans. And then rail already being the most affordable mode of transport, Bongani, you're quite correct. I mean, it's opportune that I'm sitting here on the day that we see the fuel price having gone up. And if you look at what the price of train travel is, it's very affordable.
Yeah, I mean, I think every South African would rally behind Prasa because of the obvious fact that you've just mentioned now in terms of affordability, in terms of things like reliability. And that used to be the story of Prasa. But we have to deal with the elephant in the room. When we think of Prasa, many of us think of the legacy issues around the looting. We think of the legacy issues around the network and the destruction of the network. And so even as you talk of a turnaround strategy, how are you ensuring that Prasa will not be back in the headlines for all the wrong reasons?
So firstly, in terms of the theft and the vandalism you refer to, This recovery and rebuild that we have seen has been underpinned by a security strategy. Phase 1 being additional boots on the ground, and then the phase 2, which we're busy rolling out, is technology. And you'll see from the corridors that we have recovered, Bongani, you will see these corridors are running. They have not been interrupted in terms of the service on these corridors. So that's very important to ensure there's no repeat of the theft and vandalism that we have seen.
Which corridors can you specifically speak about where things have come back in full swing?
So yes, that's one of the key things that I think is important. We are still in the recovery phase. When we talk about full recovery, one of the key programs is bringing back our signaling. That will enable Prasa to run high-frequency trains. In other words, getting a train running every 5 to 10 minutes on the corridor. Where we see improvements in that nature here in Gauteng, the Mabopane corridor, we see that we've got signaling up and running. So there's a train every 15 minutes that we can run there.
And that's Mabopane to Pretoria?
Pretoria, correct. In Cape Town, the southern suburbs line, from Cape Town through to Muizenberg, we've recovered through our internal team some of the signaling. And
work particularly on the East Rand and the West Rand. I remember once being able to take a train from Park Station all the way to Mabopane. That's something I can't do today, is it?
From
Park Station, Joburg, all the way to Mabopane Station. That's something I can't do today.
No, physically you can do that today. That corridor is open. Where we need to improve is on the travel time. So I think that will be one of the attractive measures that we would want to get to increase the speeds, ensure the signaling is fully recovered on the entire corridor. As I've mentioned, it's Mabopane to Pretoria. But physically, you can get a train all the way, not only from Naledi to Park Station, through to your Ikuruleni to Pretoria and to Mabopane. You can get a train all the way through.
So you could try, in theory, you're saying you could travel from Naledi to Mabopane via train.
Correct.
All throughout Gauteng.
Absolutely.
How long would that journey take you?
So at the moment, the journey will take you over 1.5 hours. And that is due to we need to get the signaling recovered on the full corridor. We need to improve the speeds. The important thing for now, Bongani, is to ensure we move our customers safely. And therefore, we've got the manual authorization which assists with some of this movement. Yeah.
Is there resistance? I mean, are you finding that the people who, of course, had vested interests in making sure that Prasa doesn't succeed do try and sabotage the work that you are doing?
We've got a very robust stakeholder engagement process. And as we are recovering, we're engaging with various stakeholders across the spectrum. And even in the public transport sector, which I assume you're also alluding to, very important that each mode has a role to play, Bongani. Rail is the backbone. But you do require the feeder distribution, complementary services that need to run.
Because it would be one thing to talk about discounts for scholars, of course, particularly if the network was back to its former glory and fully operational. What is the goal? When do you envisage, because obviously it is going to be a slow journey, to get back to where Prasa once was able to transport South Africans? When do you envisage, assuming all goes well, we get back to full strength?
At some point, I'd like to share, Bongani, just this progress that we've already seen. Just over the last year, we've seen a doubling in terms of passenger trips on rail, from 39 million to 77 million passenger trips for the year. By the end of this financial year, which is now, as we speak, end of March, we're breaking the 100 million passenger trips barrier. So it's still a far cry from where we want to be. The target is to grow to 600 million passenger trips per year. That's where we want to be. And then coming just back, I think I wanted to make the point, when you talk about focus on his customers must feel safe in the environment. So you find not only securitization of our assets, but also our customers. Securing them, making them feel safe. We've got security on the trains. It's got the CCTV cameras on the trains, our stations. So the environment we need to look at, and that is critical. Part of our secondary mandate, Bongani, is also to generate revenue of our assets. We own significant property, land, but also other assets like fiber. And we've had very exciting developments, be it through student accommodation, retail developments at our stations. I don't know when last you were at Park Station, if you were there recently, but you can get the sense that our stations are becoming gateways to opportunities as well. And that's what we are rolling out.
You mentioned a little earlier on the new trains that are being built here in South Africa. Is this the Isitimela Sabantu?
Absolutely, the people's train. Yeah.
Tell me what makes them special, these coaches.
Okay, so these new trains, electrical trains, I might just add, are manufactured here in South Africa. We've currently got 300 train sets that have been already manufactured. It's got all the modern features. Besides the ability to operate faster, it's air conditioned. It has got full capability for special needs passengers, those with physical disabilities, the elderly. We've got the onboard announcements, both audio and visual that takes place. As I've mentioned, we've got the CCTV, the cameras. Very importantly, also, it offers us additional capacity. You will recall, Bongani, as you said, you've used the train before. Myself, I've also been a regular train user in my student days. You will recall the trains that were very compartmentalized.
Yeah.
These trains, you can walk from the front to the back, all through 6 coaches. And that helps with visibility, security, anything happening on the train, any emergencies, you can deal with it quite quickly. So it's got all the modern features, compares with modern trains anywhere around the world.
Lessons learned from the past mistakes?
So there's a number of lessons learned. One, as I've mentioned, even from the governance point of view, you would have seen a lot of improvement at Prasa. Just this past year, for the first time in 9 years, Bongani, Prasa has received an unqualified audit. And that is because of improved governance, controls being put in place, beefing up on your risk and internal audit capabilities. So that's quite a key area. But very important is now also capacitating Prasa to ensure we can fully implement on the mandate that we have given. We now are able to implement on our capital programs. That has been the cornerstone of the turnaround. In the last 3 years, we've executed in excess of 50 billion on infrastructure as well as the rolling stock program, and that in turn stimulates the economy. That has contributed to over 80,000 jobs within the sector.
You talk about repairing what has gone wrong. What are your plans for expanding the network, expanding different corridors to new areas, perhaps that you never operated before?
I'm so glad you've asked me that question, because while there's been a focus on rebuild and recovery, rail needs to expand. We've seen our cities through urbanization grow significantly over the last 4 decades, and rail has not really expanded. So together with our cities, the planning authorities, we have looked at plans to expand. If you're speaking here in Gauteng, the expansion beyond Davidton, which has grown significantly. In Cape Town, the Blue Downs Rail Corridor. In Gqeberha, we're talking about the Motherwell Rail Link. So we've got various expansion plans that we do have. It sits in the transport plans of the cities, and that's the next focus in terms of once we've recovered, rebuild, and modernized to a large extent, is expanding the network as well.
Listen, there's never been a better time for rail to thrive than these uncertain times. I said earlier, I think consumers are being battered from all sides. Fuel, food, electricity, all these costs rising. If rail gets its act together, particularly when it comes to the movement of passengers, then that will be a good news story for all South Africans. Corporates that care, that is, of course, Prasa's Group CEO, Mr. Hisham Emran.
702 podcasts are on 702.co.za.
And look at the time. The Clement Manyatela Show starts now.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. 2 men accused of the murder of media personality Warwick Stock, popularly known as DJ Warris, Sfiso Zulu. 2 men accused of the murder of media personality Warrendo Pakula is accused of being the trigger man, while 44-year-old